Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in Season 2 Part 52 of What If the Transformers Were in My Hero Academia. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 102, What It Takes to Be a Hero. In terms of utter chaos, Kada Kiryu could safely say that this was probably the pinnacle of anything she had ever experienced. Mission City had essentially been thrown to the wolves the moment the Decepticons invaded, and that continued to be the case even with them doing their best to beat them back. Because for every Viacon that was either incapacitated or outright offline, several more would take their place, almost like they were appearing out of the ether. But what's worse was the more prominent Decepticons were exceptionally harder to take down. Which was as expected, but no less aggravating. Even now, Grimlock and Skullcruncher continued their stalemate, their swords clashing and scraping against each other and throwing sparks across the battlefield. "Ha, getting tired yet, sunshine?" the Protectobot taunted. "Not a chance, old-timer," Grimlock growled, pushing against Skullcruncher with all his might. "I'm just getting warmed up." But Skullcruncher dug his heels into the pavement, giving him more leverage. Well, this old-timer still knows how to scrap with the best of them. Raw. All of a sudden, he lurched backwards while taking hold of Grimlock's arm, swinging the Dinobot commander up and over his head with a surprise suplex. Wah! Clang! Grimlock was dropped right on top of his head, leaving him dazed as his body fell limp across the street. Grim! Kada cried out, making a mad sprint toward her partner, only for a large tail to get in her way. Ukyu. Stay back, Katasaurus, the dragon hero warned. I will help him. You aren't ready for such a dangerous threat yet. Go help your friends. She nudged her head over toward Edgeshot, Kriti and Lizardy, who were combating Silas in his copter mech. They could use some muscle. But if anything, that only irritated Kada further. What, you're saying Silas isn't as big of a threat as Mr. Vile Crocodile over there? Ukyu lowered her head with a stern gaze. I'm saying that this is your chance to show what your quirk can really do. Remember our lessons, child. She pressed a claw to her pupil's chest. To unleash the warrior, you must tame the beast within. Peering back toward the bots, Ukyu saw Skullcruncher pressing his foot to Grimlock's chest, hoisting his sword over his head. I have to go. You can do it, Kada. Believe in yourself, and it will come to you. Ukyu, wait, ZZZZZZAAAAAPP. Quadruple A. The sound of a pained yell made Kada swing her head back around to the fight with Silas, where she saw Edgeshot go falling straight down to the road. His body was unraveled around the midsection and she could see small bolts of electricity running across his body, almost as if he'd been paralyzed. Momo gasped and cried out to her mentor. Edgeshot. The ninja hero struggled to get up, made even more arduous when Silas swung his leg and kicked him into a bench. Did you honestly think I wouldn't have prepared for this occasion? My mech is designed to protect itself from any quirk that could easily dismantle it. Edgeshot tried his best to sit up and pull himself together, raising a hand to the approaching girls. Stop. Ladies, stay right there. But Edgeshot. Momo insisted. We can help. You can, but I doubt anything can be done to that. Edgeshot pointed up at the huge Gatling guns that came up out of the mech's shoulders, taking aim at him in an instant. Aside from my quirk. But the very second that he tried to flex himself, his body spasmed and he fell onto his side, clenching in pain. Gia. Silas chortled in the driver's seat, his thumb hovering above the trigger button on his control handle. But as you can no doubt tell, you are in no position to use said quirk. But don't worry. With your death, the superiority of technology over superpowers will finally be proven true. Boom. What? The mech lurched forward after an explosive round blew up on its back, though Silas was able to catch and restabilize himself. But unfortunately, one of his guns wasn't so lucky, falling off one of its struts. Get away from him, Kriti said with a nasty scowl, having created a large cannon. Lizardy split her body parts even further, practically surrounding the mech with herself. Yeah, what you're doing is totally not fair. You wanna throw down? We're game. Oh, children, Silas made the fists of his mech clench. You've chosen to pick a fight with the wrong man. HRAH. Stomping forward, Silas went to strike Momo first, but just then, he found his vision blocked by several body parts flying every which way in front of his windshield. Gah! Out of the way! Not a chance, Setsuna retorted, her head floating down toward Momo. Yaoyorozu, we need something to really throw him off his game. The creation user was already mulling over their options. I know, I'm trying to, huh. But right at that moment, she saw Kada sprinting full speed at the mech, much to the pair's surprise. Kada, wait. We don't have a plan yet. Setsuna hollered. What are you doing? In truth, Kada herself didn't really know either. But what she did know was that her friends couldn't possibly take Silas out alone. Yukio was right, they needed a heavy hitter, and right now, that was her. Unleash the warrior, tame the beast within, with her mentor's words repeating in her head, she set her full concentration on the target ahead of her. She needed to take it down, ram it at full speed. Take its legs out and the rest will fall with it. She pictured it in her head all so easily, and she knew exactly what could do that in an instant. Triceratops horns, Triceratops horns. Triceratops, horns. Kra chom, guh, wwa, aaugh. Crash. And just like that, Momo and Setsuna were left stunned and speechless at what just happened. Out of all the things that they would have expected Kada to do, they didn't think she'd be able to do this. It brought back memories of the sports festival, only this time, the girl seemed to be in far more control as she trampled all over the place, unbothered by her new heavy frame and quadrupedal stance. You've got to be kidding me. Setsuna uttered. Kada, Momo asked, approaching her friend. Are you, alright? Turning back to them was a creature that was once a young human girl, that now took the form of a fully grown Triceratops. She tilted her head and replied, yeah, I'm fine, Yaomomo. In fact, I'm great. Did you see how I took that thing down? Huh. I'll bet Baku Breath wishes he could do something like that. Setsuna raised a shaky finger, which itself was still floating in the air. Why yeah, but, Kada, you're. What? Something wrong. Kada shook her head, which was when she noticed something was off. Whoa, why does everything feel so heavy? As she kept talking, Momo unzipped her top and created a full-length mirror, quickly zipping back up before holding it up in front of the Saurian girl. I mean, I had a big breakfast this morning, but I don't think. Upon seeing her reflection, Kada stumbled back, and fell straight onto Silas's mech. Gah! Behind the pileup, Edgeshot reached out and shouted, Kada, stand up. You're crushing him. The Ceratopsian did her best to fumble back to her now tree trunk-like legs, stabilizing her now much heavier self. Oh my god. The girls could see tears forming in her eyes, the revelation hitting her all at once. I did it. I actually did it. She almost jumped for joy, though the best she could pull off was a small bound. I'm a full-on dinosaur. Beaming at her proudly, the girls congratulated their friend. Haha, that you did, Kada. Momo nodded, placing the mirror down for an applause. Well done. Yeah, now we can finish Silas off. Setsuna pumped a floating fist. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that, the trio gasped as Silas's mech stood back up, its remaining Gatling gun shifting toward them. I was originally going to let you children off the hook, but after that, you can be sure that you'll meet the same fate as Edgeshot. Prepare to. Shink shink shink. BWAM. But before he could even move his thumb, Silas was bombarded by several impacts all at once, followed by the alarms in his cockpit going off. What? Status report. Defense systems compromised. Weapons failing. Destruction imminent. Silas's eyes widened after reading the text on the screen, but he didn't have time to ask any questions as his seat started to get hotter and hotter. In a flash, he reached down and opened up a plexiglass case containing a big red button, which he smashed down immediately. Not a second later, he was ejected from the cockpit and he rolled to safety, right before the mech combusted into a fiery wreck. The leader of MECH could only stare on in shock, before his eyes drifted up to see who had destroyed his robotic suit. Windblade, Momo exclaimed. You, Silas snarled. How did? An impressive machine, to be sure, Silas. Windblade asserted, spinning her sword in her hand. But still a machine and nothing more. We Cybertronians are built with much sterner stuff, so if you're smart, you'll, pew pew pew, gah. The city speaker ducked, as did the rest of the humans, when incoming laser fire rained down from above, courtesy of a nosediving slipstream. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. She transformed right before she hit the ground and shifted her trajectory to kick Windblade in the center of her chest, sending her into the nearest building. Of course, Kada wasn't about to let this stand. Hey, get away from her, you glitch. GRAAHH. She started to charge headlong at Slipstream, though the Seeker Femme seemed visibly unimpressed. HMPH, such a brute. She raised her foot, expecting to stop the Ceratopsian without effort, only to be surprised when she was pushed back so hard that her knee buckled. Gah! Slipstream was promptly shoved to the ground, where Momo saw an opportunity. Reloading. Creating another cannonball, the young heroine loaded it in and aimed it right at Slipstream. Fire. Bam. AH. Slipstream gasped and rocketed herself upward just as the projectile was about to make its mark, resulting in the street getting blown to bits instead. You little cretins. I will make certain you, Gia. But she wound up spooked when Setsuna's head floated right in front of her optics, making a freaky face all the while. Blah blah blah. Utterly repulsed, Slipstream went to bat the organic away, but was suddenly pelted on all sides from Setsuna's other body parts. Ah. What in, ACH, Cybertron's name, UFF, or you? Someone who's protecting her friend. Speaking of which, Setsuna pulled herself out of range as quick as possible. I think you've got unfinished business with her. Slipstream. The Seeker Femme whirled around and swung her hands up just in time to catch Windblade's Stormbringer's sword right as it was about to cleave down through her head, the city speaker glowering at her in contempt. As if your past crimes weren't enough, now you resort to trying to kill children. With an incredulous gaze, Slipstream's arms shifted form, becoming a pair of jagged, teal energy blades that she used to push Windblade back. Excuse me, but they were the ones who started the bloody thing. I would have killed you by now if it weren't for them. Her optics narrowed at her target. But now, nothing will stand in my way. Meanwhile, as all that was happening, Yukio had made it over to Grimlock and charged straight into Skullcruncher's back, knocking the Protectobot off of him. Graw. Out of the way, she growled, peering down to Grimlock in concern. You alright? Huh, yes, thank you. Propping himself up with his sword, the Dinobot leader gave a light chortle while eyeing the dragon woman. HM, we really must stop meeting like this. Yukio offered a small smile of her own. HMPH, maybe stop getting into trouble and that might just happen. Grimlock stood to his full height, bringing out his massive shield. Oh, Miss Yukio, you have so much to learn about me. He narrowed his gaze at Skullcruncher as he stood up, the Predacon clenching his sharpened teeth. This can be over before you know it, Scully. Just drop the sword and stand down. We don't have to keep going back and forth like this. But Skullcruncher wouldn't hear it, rolling his neck to loosen his gears. Oh ho, but Grimlock, it's been so long since I was able to cut loose like this. He scraped his sword along his sharpened fingers with anticipation. Bein' Swindle's muscle is fine and all, but I've been yearning for something that helps me relive my glory days as a space pirate. And this is exactly what I was hoppin'. Foe, shoom, what? Without any warning whatsoever, a yellow blur suddenly appeared from down the street and stopped directly behind Skullcruncher, revealing itself to be Swindle himself. Scully. Oh, thank Primus I found ya. Gimme a sec, I need to fuel up. Wah, kid, where the pit did you come from? Skullcruncher waved his hand. You were supposed to be with Swift, weren't ya? Yeah, but that whole plan kinda fell through. The con artist explained as he pulled out his dispenser and popped 3 more cubes of red energon into his hand. Been leading that scout on a wild astro goose chase all around the city, so I kinda need, clang, gah. To Grimlock and Yukio's surprise, said scout instantly appeared and kicked the tiny cubes out of Swindle's hand. Ha, caught ya, Flare Up proclaimed. No, Swindle raised his cannon arm and shot right at her point blank, only for her to blink out of existence and appear on his opposite side. Made ya look. Flare Up pulled out her pistols and unloaded on her target, only to get her arms caught by Skullcruncher. Wah. She was promptly thrown straight at Grimlock, who tossed his shield aside to catch her. Gah! Blast it! Sorry, Grim. Flare, did you seriously follow him this far? Grimlock inquired. Yukio tilted her head. What about the rest of your team? Getting to her feet, Flare upside and explained, well, most of the others were trying to rescue some hostages, while Strongarm and Swift are doing their whole super mode thing. She thrust a finger over to Swindle. Meanwhile, that one turned tail and ran. Ya lil, coward. Grr, enough. Swindle barked as, from his body, several weapons started to come out. While his right arm was still adorned with his cannon, a smaller machine gun emerged from his left arm, while an equally compact Gatling gun sprung forth from his chest. In addition, a pair of energy protectors slid up from his shoulders, unleashing an electrical current that spread out in all directions. You want me to fight? Alright then, let's fight. I couldn't agree more. Skullcruncher concurred, as his body began to glow with a green aura. And it's about time I pulled out an old trick. RRRRAAAAAHHH. All at once, the emerald light shot straight up into the sky, where a swirling vortex of dark clouds was quickly formed. And, from these clouds, came a certain small, glowing chip that slotted straight into Skullcruncher's back. For a moment, it was visible to all of them, a key that had a silvery outer ridge that made it appear as if an animal's claw were gripping it. And in its center was a symbol resembling four-fingered open claw hand. Upon slotting into his back, the key began granting Skullcruncher overwhelming power, in the form of his body changing significantly. His feet were exchanged for his much more crocodilian beast mode feet, complete with silver claws. Then, his robot mode hands retracted into his arms, once again replaced with his bestial claws. Finally, his head flipped into his torso, allowing his crocodile head to flip out in its place. Returning his tail sword to his hindquarters, the power-up was complete, transforming Skullcruncher into what could only be described as a bipedal robot crocodile. Skull Cruncher. Cyber Key Power. Between the Protectobots' roar of defiance and Swindle arming himself to the teeth, the trio could easily see that things were about to get much more difficult. Oh, bugger all. Flare Up muttered. Meanwhile, halfway across down, the team that Flare Up had once been a part of had made good headway against the Decepticons that opposed them. Tiger Claw and Kamakura did a lot of the heavy lifting in that regard, though Big Fist and Ingenium were no slouches either, the four of them breaking their way through the villainous forces. As for Eraserhead, he was busy aiding all of the civilians away from the conflict, along with making sure Nanosec stayed incapacitated with his scarf. And all the while, down the street, Strongarm and Swift were still going at it, their super mode enhanced powers on full display in what was ostensibly a violent light show. Laser blasts, rocket barrages, glowing drills and saw blades, the works. And yet neither one of them seemed to be able to get one up over the other. They were both fighting with equal intensity, and it was starting to get Swift angry. Gah, why won't you go down? She shouted while swinging her weapons furiously. Because I can't afford to. Strongarm countered, raising checkpoint to shoot at Landslide's incoming saw. Pow! Swift let out a scream of pain as she recoiled from the blast, smoke wafting off her hand. Seeing the opening, Strongarm aimed Scythe's Gatling guns and opened fire, successfully hitting the lieutenant. Gyaaaah. But once again, Swift countered with Dueler's cannons, creating another energy burst that blinded both of them. However, this time, she chose to charge straight through it. Raaahhh. Clash. Even with her vision blurred, she knew she'd hit Strongarm if she ran straight ahead, and she was finally able to bring her down to the ground. The noise managed to catch Tenya's attention, and by that point, a majority of the Decepticons had been incapacitated. Strongarm. Choom. He started sprinting over to the duo at full speed, much to the protests of his teammates. In her blind rage, Swift cackled as she smashed her fists against Strongarm's chassis, leaving charred dents with every strike. Ahahaha. Yeah, how does it feel now, cadet? Come on, gimme a good fight. Strongarm could only stare up in horror as Swift's optics changed to a demented green, clearly incensed from all the power. With drill bit and Landslide starting to spin, she raised her arms up for the finishing blow. Come on, come on. ZZZZZZAAAPP. Yeah. But mere seconds before that could happen, Swift was delivered an intense electrical shock from behind, her body convulsing with purple energy. And then, her optics dimmed and her body fell off to Strongarm's side, the destruction minicons falling off of her in the process. The sight made Tenya stop in astonishment, though by that point, he was close enough. Strongarm, what happened? Pushing the Decepticon off of her, Strongarm got to her feet and ran a diagnostic scan on all four of them. They're all in stasis, she concluded, right as the rest of their team joined them. Impressive work, Kamakura commended before his body transformed back into his human form. Took her down in one shot. But, I didn't do that. Strongarm's statement made everyone do a double take, but whatever questions they could have asked were answered by the arrival of someone new. Yeah, that's 'cause I did. The whole team whirled around toward a nearby dark alley where the voice had come from, with Strongarm raising all of her weapons at once. Who goes there? Come out with your hands up. Hey, you haven't changed a bit. From the shadows, the mysterious new arrival revealed themselves to be another Cybertronian, one that no one recognized, except for Strongarm, whose optics widened and jaw dropped at the sight of someone who she'd once thought long dead. But of course, you were always the goody two-shoes, weren't ya, Regs? Tenya was left scratching his head at this bot. She appeared to have a very similar body type to Strongarm herself, with a color scheme consisting of dark magenta and deep purple. Her helm was a different shape, though, being much rounder with little antennae near her auditory lobes. Her face was bright teal and her optics were a piercing yellow, contrasting with her armor plating. Strongarm, do you know this bot? With a gasp, Tenya sidestepped as checkpoint fell straight down to the ground, transforming upon impact. Anti-Blaze and Scythe followed suit, Strongarm's arms going completely limp as she stared at the other femme. Ouch. Hey, what's the big idea, Strongarm? The police car minicon grumbled. Cadet, snap out of it, but right as Scythe was about to go on a tirade, he also spotted the other femme, leading him and his team to become just as stunned. Number slaggin' way. It's impossible, Anti-Blaze uttered. Making her way forward, Itsuka demanded answers. What is impossible? Who is this and why are you guys so shocked? The purple femme smirked toward the officers and Strongarm, well aware of the effect her presence had. Aurelie, are you gonna answer him, Regs, or am I gonna have to? 'Cause if you stand there with your mouth open, you're gonna get cyber flies in, oof. She didn't have much time to react as Strongarm rushed forward, her hands grasping the femme's arms. Am I dreaming? The cadet stammered. Please tell me I'm not dreaming. With a soft smile, the purple femme pat her friend's hand in reassurance. It's real, Regs. It's been way too long. Nitra. Strongarm screamed as she brought her into a hug, crying in utter joy. I can't believe it. You're alive. The Minicon Council let out a momentous cheer as they too joined the group embrace. Well, I'll be damned. Scythe knocked his fist against Nitra's leg. What a sight for sore optics, cadet. Where in the pit have you been? We thought you perished in the explosion that took out the CPD eons ago. Anti-Blaze added. Hey, you really thought it was weird that you didn't find my body? Nitra inquired, lightly pushing against Strongarm to relax the hug. Please, you should have known it'd take more than that to off me. Before the conversation could go anywhere else, Moonracer had cleared his throat from below. Ahem, he called out, bringing the bots' attention to him. Pardon me for breaking up the reunion, but would you mind explaining who exactly this is, Strongarm? Itsuka scratched her head, also feeling quite lost. Yeah, I'm not following here. I am, Tenya said, removing his helmet and revealing his surprised expression as he pointed at Nitra. I've heard Strongarm tell stories about your time at the police academy together, along with the fact that you're supposed to be long deceased. His comment earned a small snicker from her as she shifted slightly further away from Strongarm, though she still kept a hold on her. Hey, got it in one, Chico. You a friend of Regs here, then? I am, though why do you refer to her as Regs? PFF'd, 'cause she was always a stickler for the regulations. Nitra chortled, earning an optic roll from a now composed Strongarm. Oh, don't give me that. You know how bad you were. With a short sigh, Strongarm shrugged and shook her head. Well, I mean, it's been a long time since then, Nitra. I've been forced to bend a few rules since then. So you did get buddy-buddy with Sideswipe, then. Nitra nudged her friend in the arm. Knew you couldn't stay mad at him forever. Yeah, anyways, back to you. Strongarm's countenance grew more serious as she shifted topics. I always had an inkling that you might have lived, but, Nitra, where've you been all this time? And why didn't you ever try to contact us? The purple femme winced at the question, now stepping further away from the others. Ah hey, well, that's where things get complicated, now please, don't freak out, but, she raised her arm to the group, and showed off the Decepticon sigil, leaving them all astonished. Yeah. Strongarm's face scrunched as several emotions began to hit all at once. Confusion, disbelief, anger, and betrayal. Nitra, you joined the Decepticons. Hey, Relahete, it wasn't exactly by choice. Nitra explained. Just my best option. She pursed her lips as she explained. When the explosion happened, Barricade found me. I'd gotten caught under a pile of rubble and I would have died then and there, but he gave me an option. I could either stay there and die, or fake my death and put my hacking skills to use on the Decepticons' side. Checkpoint clenched his fists in anger. Of course it was Barricade. That piece of slag would give you an ultimatum like that after leaving the rest of us to burn. We lost several good bots on that day. Scythe growled. And he chose to go for you because of your talents, as despicable as he is, it makes sense. I still can't wrap my head around this, Strongarm shook her head. After all he did, you still chose to go with him. Nitra became crestfallen, hearing the hurt in her friend's voice. Regs, I swear, it wasn't to hurt you, or any other bot. Sure, I didn't exactly mesh well at the academy or the department, but I did not want to betray you guys in any way. I needed the freedom of the cons to get where I needed to go. If anything, this only raised Strongarm's suspicions. What are you talking about? With tightened lips, Nitra seemed hesitant to explain, which led Strongarm to raise her crossbow and pull out a pair of stasis cuffs. You can either let us in on what's going on, or we can take you in and interrogate you about it. Please, Nitra, be honest with me here. With another wince, Nitra's shoulders slumped and she came clean. Alright, you remember how Prowl and Dropforge always told us not to go too deep into the department's databanks. Yeah, that was a direct order from Sentinel Prime back in the day. Strongarm said, leering at her old friend. And it was also something you were caught doing countless times. Nitra nodded, owning up to her claim. Yeah, that's right, and one day, I went a bit too far deep. Raising her palm, Nitra brought up her holographic display and started inputting commands, going through several encrypted files until she found the one she wanted. And when I did, I saw this before the entire thing shut down on me. Within seconds, an image was brought up before the group, and if possible, Strongarm and the mini-cons were left even more stunned than before. You've gotta be fragging with me. Scythe uttered, seeing the rather intimidating symbol. There's no way, Anti-Blaze denied. It has to be some sort of joke. There's a lot of things I'm willing to lie about. Nitra said, her tone incredibly stoic and dire. But not this. Anything but this. The humans were still a bit confused, though they could see that the symbol was quite a terrifying sight. It was neither Autobot nor Decepticon, but rather, a very sharp, glaring insignia with pointed horns and long fangs on either side. None of them had seen anything like it. What even is it? Tenya inquired. Strongarm swallowed hard, her circuits running cold as she answered, it's the insignia worn by the heralds of Unicron. Tenya and Itsuka recognized the name right off the bat, now much more wary of the symbol, but the Josen Aizawa were still not following. Wait, y'all are scared of a unicorn? Tiger Claw asked, earning him several incredulous glances. What now? Strongarm questioned. Kamakura decided to answer, pointing his hand straight out from his forehead. Magical horse with a horn on its head. Prances around all sparkly like. No, Unicron. Nitra rolled her optics. Nowhere near as cute. He's an elder god, a planet-eating menace from the dawn of time itself. His battle with Primus is basically what brought about the existence of the Cybertronian race in the first place, and unfortunately, there are some of our race who are actually willing to serve as his followers. But that doesn't make any sense. Strongarm asserted. The dread Galvatron was said to have been banished by Nova Prime at the start of Cybertron's golden age. All signs of him and his followers were said to have been wiped from the planet. How'd you find this? Like I said, Regs, I dug too deep. Nitra explained. The moment I saw this, I was kicked and given a pretty nasty shock for my troubles. Scythe stomped forward and snapped, so tellin' me that, in addition to helpin' those blasted quints off Nova Prime, that bastard Sentinel might have had a deal goin' with Galvatron, too. Checkpoint kicked a piece of rubble out of frustration. Frag. And Megatron's already killed him, so we have no idea what that deal could have been. Maybe not now, Nitra shrugged. But that's exactly what I'm working on figuring out. By yourself. Strongarm crossed her arms over her chest. Behind enemy lines. Nitra, you know that Optimus will help if you tell him what's going on. With another sigh, Nitra sent her friend a sympathetic look. Regs, trust me, I know he would, but he's already got his hands full with Megatron and this scrap-tastic war going on. And at any rate, as much as I hate to admit it, the cons are the ones who have access to Cybertron's main databanks. I dip out now, and I lose that. Then could there be something we can do to help? Tenya inquired. Nitra offered him a small grin. Yeah, keep quiet about this to Prime and the others, por favor. Leaning down, she picked up Swift and hefted her over her shoulder, while picking up the Destruction Mini-Con team and slinging them under her arm. Far as he's concerned, this little conversation never happened. Strongarm's irises furrowed. And what'll you be doing? Well, first, I've gotta make sure these idiots get back to the dark side before they wake up. My stasis grenades don't last that long. With a snap of her fingers, Nitra summoned a ground bridge, much to the shock of everyone. And as for what I do next, I've just gotta keep doing what I've been doing. And you're certain that the cons won't find out? Itsuka pointed up at her. I mean, if you weren't supposed to let us know you're alive, then how did the cons not know you're here? The hacker snickered at the question. Ho ho, Chica, I've been at this for millions of stellar cycles. I've got contingencies that'll make that head of yours spin. Trust me, I'll be fine, but seeing Strongarm's stern gaze, Nitra sighed and bowed her head. Regs, I know what I'm doing is dangerous, but if I don't get answers, then we might all be done for. And between you and me, she craned her head around, her optics focusing on the sky. I'd rather not see this planet consumed. So please, trust me on this one. At first, the cadet was silent, but ultimately, a short sigh passed her lips. I can see that I'm not going to convince you otherwise to give this up, but please promise me two things, that you'll be safe, and that you'll come back once this whole Unicron business is put to an end. I can only promise to try, mi amiga. That's good enough. Strongarm reached out, giving Nitra's shoulder a firm squeeze. Take care of yourself, Nitra. Nitra winked back as she turned around. I'll do my best. She went to walk into the ground bridge, but came to a halt when she remembered something. Oh, and one more thing, there's a small Autobot vessel approaching Earth muy rapido. The team's eyes bugged out at the news. Huh, they all exclaimed. Yeah, pretty sure I picked up, like, at least 10 or 12 energy signatures on there, too. Nitra sent them one last grin before strolling through the portal. Have fun with that info. And just like that, she was gone, the portal closing behind her. The squad was left in complete silence for a moment, pondering what they had to do, only for Strongarm to transform and immediately switch on her lights. Come on, we've got a rendezvous with the others before the cavalry arrives. With everyone loading up inside her and the mini-cons hitching a ride in her truck bed, Strongarm drove far past the speed limit through the abandoned streets, all while thinking on what her best friend had told her. Nitra, I really hope you're right about this. Iyog, I will break you. Bulkhead had to admit, he was starting to lose steam. Since his and Sunstraker's teams reconvened, the resulting fight had devolved into absolute madness. Of course, chief among the insanity was Blastwave, his incensed state only being fueled by Flatline's constant stream of uber-charged energon. And then, of course, were the Seekers, who were busy dealing with both Eraser in the sky and Sideswipe on the ground. Well, the first part was true at least. Skywarp and Eraser were practically at each other's throats up above, the Dark Seeker seething at her. This will be the payback I exact for my humiliation in Egypt, Maximal. Pow 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 pow. Ah. Just barely dodging a blast from his shotguns, Eraser countered, please, as you needed my help humiliating yourself. The Falcon Maximal brought out her arm-mounted darts and started firing at Skywarp, who teleported every which way around to dodge. On the ground, meanwhile, things were still somewhat at an impasse when it came to Thundercracker. He was still actively fighting Sideswipe, of course, using his cyber caliber to match the Autobot's cyber key power. But all the while, the Blue Seeker still felt the intense, icy gaze of a certain woman burrowing into his back, causing him extreme discomfort. Ah, gah, shink. Ha, caught ya sleeping, Sideswipe taunted, having knocked the cyber caliber out of his hands. He then bounced off Thundercracker's chest to reach up and grab it. And now it's MI. However, the three mini-cons split off and flew away before he could. Gah, dang it. Thundercracker. Runway shouted, flying directly in front of her master's face. What in the pit is wrong with you? Yeah, you're totally distracted. Jetstorm asserted. This is so not cool. Sonar was a bit less enthusiastic, but no less irritated. Not like I care or anything, but what has gotten into you? Tightening his lips, Thundercracker peered over his shoulder, leading the mini-cons to see that Midnight still stood there with her arms crossed, visibly quite disappointed. Oh, please, do answer them, Thundercracker, she asserted. Let them know just how much of a hypocrite their trusted friend is. Oh, well, that explains things a little bit. Runway jetted off straight for Midnight, causing the Blue Seeker to panic. Runway, don't, he insisted. She isn't our target. But the leader of the aerial assault team transformed and landed in front of the heroine, puffing out her chest to confront her. Then who is our target, Thundercracker? Because if you're seriously trying to justify not killing these humans, then maybe your brother was right. Right about what, exactly? Midnight countered. That you're the reason Thundercracker's gone soft. Runway stuck a finger at Midnight's nose. You and your entire race with your movies and TV shows. They've rotted his processor. Midnight stuck her nose up at the mini-con and huffed. HMPH, I simply pointed him in the right direction. From where I stand, it's you who needs a further attitude adjustment, sweetie. That's it. Runway went to tackle the somnambulist user, but Midnight proved faster, sidestepping her before pulling out her whip. Lashing it around Runway's foot, she yanked as hard as she could and made the femme drop head first onto the pavement, much to her teammates' shock. But she still picked herself up and went back for more, the two screaming as they traded hits on one another. And the only thing the boys could do was watch on in stunned silence. So, this happened to you often? Sideswipe asked. Thundercracker eyed him curiously. What do you mean? Getting argued over by femmes. Sideswipe explained. I'd give anything to be in that position. Thundercracker facepalmed instantly. While all of that was going on, Sunstreaker was leading the rest of the heroes in one massive charge against the Viacon soldiers, a gambit that seemed to be proving fruitful. The likes of Smintos, Red Riot, Real Steel and Crust in particular were instrumental in that fact, the quartet's sturdiness unwavering in the face of the onslaught. And of course, Chargebolt, Quick Kick, Kamui Woods and Vine weren't slacking off either, the electrification user paralyzing their enemies with intense shocks before the others came in to dismantle them in their own ways. And then, of course, there was Mina, whom Bulkhead was the proudest of for focusing on the battle rather than him. He could see just how tough it was for her to concentrate like that, but the sight of several melting Viacons only reassured him of one thing, she's gonna make one hell of a good wrecker. Ka-bam! Ow! But his distraction would prove to be a grave error as one final cannon shot from Blastwave sent Bulkhead hurtling across the battlefield, smashing straight into the street and creating a crater with his body. No. Ajiro was the first to notice the green bot's plight. Bulkhead. Hearing her friend scream, Mina snapped her head around, gasping at the sight of the smoking crater which Blastwave stalked towards. Bulk, no. But despite his injuries, Bulkhead simply picked himself back up, aiming his arm cannons at Blastwave. Ha, forget me. Keep fighting. RAAAAAHHH. Pow pow pow, but with each shot he took, it only bounced off of Blastwave's armor plating, much to his amusement. Ahahaha. You do not know how deep in slag you are, Bulkhead. Reaching down, Blastwave took a hold of his rival by the neck, lifting him out of the crater without effort. You were fine opponent, yes, but here is where you die. No, Mina screamed, and, much to everyone's astonishment, brought forth a huge wave of acid from her hands and feet, sending it straight at Blastwave. Let him go. Flatline gasped and urged his partner to get out of the way. Blastwave, we must move. The brutish Decepticon grumbled and tossed Bulkhead to the side, leaping away from the acidic wave that melted through the very road. And revealed something that no one could have expected. A small, glowing, green object that was familiar to all of them. "Ah, Bulkhead, look," Mina exclaimed, pointing at the pentagonal object. A mini-con. Bulkhead's optics zeroed in on it immediately. Indeed, it was a mini-con panel, though how he'd get to it remained a mystery. "I see it, but I can't get to it with all that acid." "Oh, but I can," Skywarp hollered, having heard the commotion from above. Completely abandoning his fight with Eraser, the Dark Seeker stooped down sharply, reaching his hand out to grab the panel. "That mini-con is MI, Herc." But he was stopped short when, from behind, Eraser came down and transformed into her beast mode, snatching him with her talons and yanking him back up. "Forget about ME, will you?" she said before giving out a loud shriek and tossing Skywarp into the nearest building. "Get that mini-con, I'll hold him back." Of all the heroes to answer that call, it was Kamui Woods who leapt into action. "Leave it to me," he assured, thrusting out his arm to send out a bridge of branches that wrapped around the panel. "Heads up, Bulkhead, raw." The big, green bot wasted no time in catching the thrown panel, cradling it close to his chest. "Got it," he grinned as the panel glowed brighter. "Come on, little guy, let's see who you are." The light concentrated into a upward beam, the panel shifting shape into the mini-con itself. Now standing in Bulkhead's palm was a mostly white and gray bot, the former color relegated to his arms and legs while the latter consisted of his torso and helm. His armor plating was quite heavy and angular, and he had dark blue details in his arms, waist and thighs. The wheels of his vehicle mode were on his hips and under his arms, while a roll cage was placed upon his back. And in the center of his chest was the mini-con symbol, right above his power link port. His head, meanwhile, was somewhat dome-shaped with ridges along the center, as well as two small nubs on each side. His optics were yellow yet his face was unseen, with a vented plate covering it. And upon awakening, his first reaction was appropriate. Blah. Why do I have this weird acidic taste in my mouth? Ah hey, Mina grinned sheepishly. Oops. Focus up, lil guy. Bulkhead advised, bringing him closer to him. What's your name? The mini-con's optics darted up, and in an instant, stood at attention. Oh, hi there. Name's Rollbar. And who are you? Bulkhead. The wrecker gave a thumbs up. Nice to meet ya, Rollbar. Wish we could get to know each other better, but that'll have to wait. We're in a tight spot here. Rollbar tilted his head. How tight? BWAAAAAAAMM. The pair gasped and ducked just in time to avoid a twin beam attack, their assailant coming back with full force. Yeah. They snapped their heads back to see Blastwave barreling toward them, having transformed into his Cybertronian tank mode with Flatline riding on top, still charging him. Bulkied. Okay, you know what, yeah, that's pretty tight. Rollbar concurred. Ever power linked with a mini-con before, Bulkhead? No, but I'm willing to try anything once. Bulkhead said with determination. Let's do it. With a fist to his chest, Rollbar complied. I'm down for that. Transform. Tucking in his hands, Rollbar's arms swiveled up over his head to form the front of his vehicle mode, while his legs bent back to form the rear. When he was done, he'd become a small beach buggy, wherein Bulkhead then tossed him up high into the air. In Power Link, leaning forward, Bulkhead allowed his new partner to attach to him between his two back-mounted tires, and from there, he could feel the sudden surge of power begin coursing through him. Of course, Blastwave wouldn't have any of it. No, I will kill YOOOOOOUU. Asterisk WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT asterisk he transformed and went to grab Flatline, only to find that his compatriot wasn't there. What? Doctor. And within moments, his uber-charged state was cancelled out, which was when he noticed that Flatline was floating in the air above him. Blastwave. The medic cried. Help me. And down below, it was clear to see who was pulling the strings. Looking for this? Sunstreaker asked, using the polarity gauntlet to wave Flatline around. Let's see how long you last without your pocket doctor. With his metallic teeth clenched, Blastwave pivoted to start running down Sunstreaker with his hands raised. I will tear out your throat, WHU pang, ow. From his blind spot, however, he was brought down by Bulkhead, whose arms were practically iridescent with power, especially in his maces. "Hey, Blastwave, optics this way." Swinging his right arm, Bulkhead went to hit his adversary again, when that arm's mace suddenly flung out from his wrist, smacking Blastwave from a short distance. This obviously shocked the Wrecker, especially when he saw that the mace was still attached by a long chain. He flicked his right arm and, to his surprise, the spikes on his other mace reshaped themselves into a saw blade. "Whoa." Mina pumped her fists into the air. "Bulk, you're armed out the gills." Ajiro smacked his fist into his open hand with anticipation. "A battle saw and a wreckin' mace. Go get him, Bulkhead." Blastwave was less impressed as he stood up, wiping the leaking energon from his mouth. "Bah, it matters not. I will still defeat you, even if I must use only my hands." "Oh yeah." Whipping his arms up, Bulkhead went into a headlong charge and, to the astonishment of everyone, jumped high into the air with his wrecking mace swinging around him while his new saw buzzed and sparked. "We'll see about that. HRAAAH. Further out in the city, Uravity and Jinx had just led the rescued civilians to safety and went to rejoin the fight, though in the ensuing chaos, the conflict between RC, Shadow Striker, Blitzwing and Springer, had actually moved throughout their part of town. The former two femmes were still clashing blades relentlessly, intent on ending one another once and for all. It was almost like watching a violent dance as Ochako and Jinx kept the Viacons at bay with their fellow heroes, the expert swordplay interspersed with kicks and flips. But every so often, the two would get in each other's faces, spitting insults at one another. "I should have killed you when I had the chance," RC said venomously, her optics shifting from blue to yellow. "Oh, but you did not have one," Shadow Striker countered smugly. "At least, not at Z time. So what is holding you back now, I wonder?" "Good question. Ask me that after I gauge out your other optic." Gia. The triple changers, meanwhile, were much more dynamic in their fighting. It involved switching from alt mode to alt mode on the fly, in some cases quite literally. What had started with a combination of sword and gun fighting changed into a game of cat and mouse as Springer seemed to purposely lead Blitzwing away from the more populated area and toward the river. "Catch me if you can, three-face," he insulted before zooming off in his armored car mode. Hoo. Is Z's a game? I love games," the crazed persona of Blitzwing proclaimed before transforming into his tank mode. "And I will be sure to end it before it begins." Amazingly, the heavy army vehicle actually managed to keep up with Springer as he drove through the streets, all while blasting beams of hot energy at him. But of course, Springer knew he couldn't just serpentine through the streets forever, especially since he was coming up on a major obstacle, a collapsed building that blocked off all adjacent streets. "Time to hit the wind," he proclaimed, shifting to his helicopter mode. Seeing this, Blitzwing followed suit, transforming to jet mode while keeping his cannon barrel out. "Z's is completely asinine," the chilly personality spoke as he unleashed blasts of icy energy toward Springer's main rotors. "You would do well to give up before Z's ends badly for you." "Sorry, but I don't surrender to nitwits who can't even decide what mood they're in." Spinning around in midair, Springer's double-barreled blaster shifted out from under his canopy. "Here's a tip, get a grip." The very second that he had Blitzwing in his crosshairs, he took the shot. Pow! With a masterful maneuver, Blitzwing avoided the blast, but then *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. He changed back into his tank mode, his angry personality taking over. "You miserable Autobot filth. I'll show you who cannot," but it became very clear to Blitzwing that he had just made a grave error, when his optics were suddenly forced down toward the river below. "Oh slag. Not Agai." Splash. Flying back to shore, Springer transformed back into robot mode and landed with a short chuckle. "Hee, I am every time." However, it was then that he heard an odd noise, groans of pain coming over the side of the embankment. He peered down over the concrete wall near the shoreline and, much to his surprise, he saw 4 of the 6 mutant monster that they'd seen over the Sky Spy earlier. They were all piled up on one another, the wall behind them having concaved in on itself. What the BOOOOM? But he didn't have much time to ponder on that as a sudden explosion caught his attention. Springer whipped his head up to see a large suspension bridge start swaying back and forth as smoke billowed from its center, and not long after, he heard the mutants start shouting, "Ha! There it is! Octopunch's plan! It's time, boys! Let's go!" The triple changer was about to jump down to stop the quartet, but then, flash, they disappeared in a bright light, much to his astonishment. "What the hell is going on?" Springer uttered. "Hey, Springer!" Spinning around, the wrecker saw Ochako and the other humans all sprinting toward him, all of them fairly scuffed up from the fighting. "Did you see that explosion on the bridge?" Springer nodded down to her. "I did. And I also saw 4 of those monster things that May caught on the Sky Spy. Apparently, it's all part of some sorta plan." Budo shook his head gravely. "That isn't a good sign. There are people trying to evacuate over that bridge. We must get moving." "What about RC?" Shoto asked. "We can't just leave her by herself here." As if on cue, the sound of scraping blades graced everyone's ears, and just a moment later, they saw the pink Autobot come over the collapsed building, still fighting Shadow Striker. And it was obvious that RC was starting to get winded. Ha, I'm not giving up. You might as well," Shadow Striker rebuked. "You will never supersede my skills. I am the Decepticons' ultimate assassin, and there is nothing that can bring me due." Pow pow. Rough, raw aoruow. Chomp. Shadow Striker let out a shrill scream as Sabak and Fangblade bit straight down into her elbow and knee respectively, bringing her down by force. Yah. Her grip on her machete was totally lost as Sabak thrashed his head about, tearing her left arm straight off. Fangblade, meanwhile, didn't even need to shake once as he bit straight through her knee, snapping her right leg in half. Oj. RC was surprised by the sudden aid, and also righteously angry about it. "Springer, what are you doing? This was my fight." "Sorry, but as much as I get your whole seeking vengeance deal, we've got bigger things to worry about." Springer thrust a finger over to the bridge, where parts were starting to crumble into the river. RC gasped and her optics went back to blue, sheathing her swords in the process. You're right. We need to go." She glared down at Shadow Striker's writhing body, the assassin struggling to sit up. "We'll finish this later." But as the pink femme left, Shadow wasn't having any of it. RC. But her screams went unanswered as both RC and Springer transformed, the former letting most of their human allies jump in while Springer took Snipe along for the ride. "Get back here. I am not finished with you." Using her remaining hand, Shadow managed to prop herself up, but by then, she was too late. The Autobots were out of range the moment she procured her rifle. She was about to let out another blood-curdling scream, but then a splash caught her attention, her focus diverting toward the shore. There, she saw Blitzwing clambering up the side of the embankment, only to then fall flat on his chest, soaking wet, but even still, that didn't stop his insane cackling. "Ahahaha. Of course you know, Z's means war." "I could not agree more." Shadow Striker smirked insidiously. "Blitzwing, help me up." On the other side of the river, Jazz had just made it to their side of the bridge, opening his doors for his entourage to disembark. "All right, good news is it ain't collapsed yet," he deduced, scanning the bridge to analyze its structural integrity. "From the looks of it, though, it's a lot less stable toward the middle, so keep your wits about ya goin' on this thing." "Will do, Jazz." Kyoka nodded. "We'll stay sharp." But out the corner of her eye, she could already see Izuku rushing toward the bridge, not even taking the time to form a plan. "Deku, wait. What are you doing? The longer we wait here, the more lives are put in danger," the masked hero asserted, turning his head back with a serious tone in his voice. And Mirko was quick to agree with him. "The kid's right. If we waste time trying to make a plan, it'll only get civilians closer to getting killed. We need to get those people off that bridge, now." Sharing a glance with her mentor, Kyoka saw Snake Eyes reach out, touching her shoulder while giving a silent nod. Yeah, you're right. But let's try and not die out there in the process, okay? I'd rather all of us make it home today." "Yeah, so do I," Izuku said, his tone much lighter as he approached her. "Let's get the job done, then, together." He raised a fist to her, and with a small smile, Kyoka knocked her own against his. "The pretenders are going down." With that resolve, the 4 humans and Jazz rushed onto the bridge, the Autobot making sure to step lightly so he wouldn't crush any humans in his path. The swaying of the structure threatened to take them off their feet, but they quickly found a way to circumnavigate this. Kyoka and Snake Eyes stayed light on their feet, sprinting across car roofs while helping people out of said cars in the process. Izuku and Mirko, meanwhile, bounded through the bridge's trusses, making sure to aid people along the way as well. And Jazz, well, he lagged behind a bit, namely because of said people being rescued. It's another one of those giant robots. One woman screamed, setting off a chain reaction across the bridge. Whoa, relax, y'all. Jazz said, trying to reassure the citizens. I ain't here to cause trouble, just strolling through to stop it. Oh yeah, an old man called out, pointing a stern finger at Jazz. Where's your proof? Bam! Right at that moment, an exploding car caught their attention, the flaming vehicle sent hurtling through the air, before descending toward the man. In that moment, he froze in fear, unable to even scream. And then, choom. Jazz brought out his subsonic repeater and shot the car away, straight off the side of the bridge and into the depths below. The old man's gaze trailed back to the Autobot, who grinned down at him. That enough proof, man? Getting a silent, awestruck nod, Jazz nudged his head toward the end of the bridge. Then ya might wanna hightail it, for more those things start flying our way. That was all the man and everyone else needed to hear as they beat a hasty retreat, and just in time as the team came upon a rather large blaze that was directly in the middle of the bridge. And, among the flames, were none other than the Pretenders, having regrouped to instill terror among the people. As Skullcruncher, Stranglehold, Submarauder, Iguanus and Bombburst did just that, Octopunch remained in one spot, directly next to a tour bus which had several humans trapped within it, the doors having been welded shut. Ah, good, the 8-armed mutant said, seeing the heroes sprinting at him. You've arrived, just as I hoped. Octopunch. Izuku snapped, thrusting a finger out at him. Step away from the bus. Now. But in an instant, he'd come to regret that as all of the Pretenders set their sights on him with baneful glares. Oh, probably shouldn't have done that. And you would be right. With a thrust of his hand, Octopunch ordered his team to get them. And the Pretenders were more than happy to oblige, with Skullcruncher and Stranglehold resuming their fights with Snake Eyes and Mirko respectively. Skullcruncher cackled as he swung his axe down onto the ninja, who once again blocked the blow with his sword. Ha ha ha. See, told you we weren't done. Stranglehold, on the other hand, caught a kick from Mirko before flinging her straight off the bridge. Yeah, we're just getting started. Gah. Thankfully, the rabbit hero was able to grab one of the trusses before she was sent completely over the edge, swinging around and planting her feet on it to launch herself back into the fight. Well, I'm glad. Just means I get to beat the snot out of you even more. Bombburst, Iguanus and Submarauder were making a beeline straight for Deku and Earphone Jack, the trio's anger reaching a fever pitch. We ain't finished with you suckers. The Bat Pretender hissed before he and his teammates unleashed their ranged attacks once again. Deku, get moving, Earphone Jack ordered, plugging her jacks into her speakers. Jazz and I will handle these 3. Wait, are you Sue? Ah. Deku was cut off when Jazz stomped his foot in front of him and Kyoka, blocking the Pretender trio's incoming attacks. Jazz. Relax, this is nothing. The Autobot lieutenant assured. You just take care of Octopunch. We'll take these chumps down. Suddenly, Bombburst spread his wings and took to the air, aiming his sonic screech at Jazz's head. Ya think so? Well, lemme tell ya something, brother, you ain't got shit on us. Kya. But right as the scream was about to connect, Kyoka sent her own sonic attack straight up, the two colliding and causing a massive burst of noise to go across the entire bridge. Izuku was thankfully safe from the attack thanks to his helmet, but he was still hesitant to leave. I have to, though. Clenching his fists, Deku spun on his heel and shot off toward Octopunch, who himself was still reeling from the loud sound. Gotta save those people. Grah. Bombburst, put a cork in it. Before ya make us all deaf, huh? It was then that the Pretender leader noticed Izuku closing in, which brought a twisted grin to his face. Still wanna play hero, Well then, kid, pushing 3 of his 8 arms against the tour bus, he effortlessly sent it straight toward the edge of the bridge, leaving Deku horrified. Go get it. Ahahaha. No. Changing direction on a dime, Deku made a beeline right for the bus, grabbing it by the rear right as its front end went over the edge. With One for All powered up to 20%, he dug in his heels and started pulling with all the strength he could muster. He could feel his ankles smack into a small ledge, giving him some leverage, but not much. Herc. URRRGK, he found himself struggling to pull the bus back, all while Octopunch continued to cackle madly. Why are you doing this? What do you get out of it? The question made Octopunch pause his laughing fit, approaching him with his sickening smile. HM, oh, dear boy, if only you knew the injustices we suffered. Balling his hand into a fist, he proclaimed, this is our vindication. After so many years of our quirks being called useless. Years of being underestimated by our peers. He spread his arms out and proclaimed, what you see before you is the solution to so many injustices in the world. Those with powerful quirks lord over those with powers that are much less impressive, and even those with no power at all. They all think less of us, and once we're done here, it'll serve as a statement that a new world order is coming. And the best part, he leaned in close and said, there's nothing you can do about it. As Octopunch kept pontificating, Izuku couldn't help but be divided between his speech, and the cries he was hearing from inside the sealed tour bus. So many people shouting at once, many in languages that Izuku couldn't understand, but he knew what they were screaming for, help. But just then, he heard a cry that he did understand. Someone in the bus was calling out to him in Japanese, and if that wasn't enough of a shock, what came next certainly was. Help us, please. Kamen Rider. The exclamation made Izuku's head jerk back up to the bus, and in the rear window, he could see a family of 4. A young boy, his preteen sister, a mother and father, all Japanese. The boy was in tears, pleading to him while making direct eye contact. Please, Kamen Rider. Save us. You can do it, Kamen Rider. The sister added as she comforted her brother. Let's go, Kamen Rider. The father cheered as well, showing a hopeful smile while his wife raised a supportive fist. Insert, you say run. It was at that moment that Izuku Midoriya felt a strange feeling. He couldn't quite describe it, but it was as if their combined hope had been injected into him, and it transformed into pure adrenaline. These people, this little family, were cheering him on, not even knowing who he was. They believed in him, and he knew then and there that he couldn't disappoint them, or anyone else on that bus. He could feel One for All's power shooting upward, but even so, it still wouldn't be enough, not if he wanted to risk breaking his bones. And then, that's when an idea struck him like a bolt of lightning. The belt. With that single thought in his mind, Izuku swiftly took his hands off the bus's bumper and smacked the buttons on his hips. Punch. Kick. Without wasting a single second, Deku's hands flew straight back to the vehicle, though this time, he dug them straight into the metal body to get a better grip. One for all, 50%. His body began to crackle with energy as the belt distributed it through his arms and legs all at once, and, much to Octopunch's astonishment, Izuku lifted the bus up and swung it right back onto the bridge. What the foo, clang. And straight into Octopunch's well, sending him hurtling over the quarreling sides and bringing the battle to a halt. What the? Kyoka exclaimed. Izuku. Holy crap. Mirko cheered on her protege. That's the way, kid. With a grunt of exertion, Deku set the bus down and pulled his hands out, taking a few deep breaths before rushing straight to the front door. It may have been welded shut, but he was still running on that adrenaline spike, so it didn't take much for him to slam his fingers through and pry it off by force. Is everybody okay? He called out in English. Everyone seems fine, yes. The bus driver said, bowing his head in gratitude. Thank you so much, young man. Don't thank me yet, sir. Everyone out, quick. With the bus driver's help, Deku was able to get everyone on the bus out and ushered them to go straight for the other side of the bridge. But right at the end, he felt something clutch to his legs, almost taking him down. Huh. He peered down and there, hugging his legs, was the young boy he had seen earlier. He was still crying, but he now wore the biggest smile that Izuku had ever seen. Thank you, Kamen Rider. He sniffled. Yes, thank you. The father spoke up, setting a hand on his son's shoulder. I'm not sure who you are, Kamen Rider, but we owe you our lives. We never would have expected our vacation to end up like this, the mother stated. Almost dying on a bus only for a common rider to come to our rescue, no one at home is going to believe this. Hee, it's no problem, really. Deku rubbed his neck sheepishly. Just doing what any hero would. But, getting back into a serious headspace, he pointed the family of 4 toward the bridge's walkway. But all of you should really go. It's not safe here. With that, the bus driver took the family away with the other bus occupants, though not before the young boy waved him goodbye. Of course, Deku waved back, wearing a smile of his own under his mask. As the rest of the heroes were still coming to grips with the amazing feat, Octopunch had returned to his feet thanks to the help of his men. Are you alright, Otto? Submarauder asked, only for the 8-armed mutant to shove him away. Don't say my real name, you fool. He chided, only to then direct his attention back to Izuku. And you, just who do you think you are? All at once, Izuku's expression changed to that of a glare, slowly turning his head back to peer at the pretenders over his shoulder. Just from that alone, the 6 could tell that he was scowling at them, and from there, his voice took on a dangerous tone. My hero name is Deku. Stomping his foot, the greenette spun around and proclaimed, Kamen Rider, Deku. Bong. Just then, before any of the villains could go in to swarm the self-proclaimed Kamen Rider, a loud bell chime reverberated across the area, leaving everyone stunned. And with it came a blue light that flooded across the entire bridge, as well as undo all of the damage that had been done there. The fires were put out, the cars were all realigned, and the cracks in the bridge were repaired in an instant. By the end, it was as if nothing had happened at all. What just happened? Iguanus uttered. You expect any of us to know that answer? Skullcruncher growled. I believe I can answer that. Hearing a new voice, Izuku whirled around where he saw someone emerge from another flash of blue light. And it was someone who he was very familiar with, immediately recognizing the white and red scarf over black suit. But even so, the young hero still couldn't believe he was here. Mr. Ace. Ace, Kyoka shouted. Jazz, Mirko and Snake Eyes all tilted their heads at her. Kyo, you know this guy. Why yeah, but, he's supposed to be back in Japan. Mr. Ace, Izuku furrowed his brow as the handsome man stood before him. How did you get here? With a small smile, Ace chuckled and reached out, patting Izuku on the shoulder. It's a long story, kid, but I'm glad to see that you've finally come to accept your fate. After observing you for so long, I was afraid it'd take months for you to come to terms with. Hold on, Izuku jerked his shoulder away. Have you been spying on us? Kyoka blinked at the revelation, and made another horrifying realization. Oh my god, Bakugo was right. Well, yes, Ace admitted, without losing an ounce of confidence. I'll come clean, I was sent to this world to observe you and your growth. I was asked by a friend to make sure that you'd be ready for any possible future events. He waved his hand to try and change the subject. But that doesn't matter at the moment. Right now, I'm here to help. He walked around Izuku, reaching behind his back. And right now, I think I can start by helping you take down these. Cha-kun. However, whatever the mysterious man was about to do was interrupted by the arrival of Blitzwing, who was carrying Shadow Striker on his shoulders. Ahahaha. Sorry to crash the party. He cackled. Gah. What the? Mirko shouted. Now who the hell is this guy? It's Blitzwing. Jazz hollered, immediately raising his sonic repeater and opening fire upon the triple changer. Everyone, get back, now. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. My apologies, said Blitzwing's cold countenance as he raised his element gun and unleashed an icy torrent upon the lieutenant. But I'm afraid I will have to put you on ice for now, Autobot. Within a matter of seconds, the humans were left horrified as Jazz was completely frozen over, caught in a state of perpetual screaming. Jazz! Kyoka yelled, only to then hear the clicking of a gun being loaded. Excellent. Using her one good arm, Shadow Striker raised her rifle at the group, intent on spraying them all down. Now once RC arrives, all she'll find are your fettered corpses. Au revoir, heroes. Ahahaha, ha. Whoop po-oh, but before she could pull the trigger, Shadow was caught off guard by a sudden noise that permeated the sound barrier, something which made the organics' ears pop. Gah, what was that? Bomb Burst asked, his hands flying up over his sensitive ears. Kyoka and Mirko were much the same, the former raising her head to the sky. I dunno, her eyes slowly widened when she saw a fast-moving object hurtling straight down toward them from above. And she was fairly sure it was big. But I think it's headed straight for US. Duck and cover, Mirko hollered. All at once, heroes and villains alike followed her advice, but the Decepticons remained unmoved as the object actually slowed down upon re-entry, and readjusted itself to hover over the bridge. Choom. Now with a better view, the Earthlings were able to see that it was a rather large spaceship, its wings having huge jet boosters on each side. Its tailfin was long and the canopy up front was rather bulbous with a large windshield, though from their point of view, they couldn't see any of its occupants. However, considering the big, red insignia that was emblazoned on the bottom, they could make a good assumption. Is that an Autobot ship? Izuku exclaimed. As if on cue, the hatch on the underside opened up, and they could see a single figure start making its way out. We'll know soon enough, Kyoka said hopefully. Falling backwards, the transformer flipped through the air several times before landing on the bridge with a THOOM, taking a knee upon impact. It became quite clear in an instant that this bot was a femme as she stood up, revealing her small yet shapely frame. Her color scheme was mostly seafoam green with violet accents in her midsection, biceps and face as well as bits of white throughout. It wasn't clear what she transformed into, but they could see that she had a pair of wheels sticking out her shoulders and a pair of headlights on her chest. Her helm, meanwhile, was rounded with a rather prominent yellow light sticking out the top. And, much to the relief of the heroes, she wore the Autobot symbol near her throat. Oh thank God, the cavalry's here, Kyoka uttered. With a flick of her wrist, the Autobot pulled out a long-handled warhammer out from behind her back. It was smaller than Roadbuster's, but it also came with a jet booster at the back. And with it clenched in her hands, a manic yet excited smile came to her purple lips. Alright, Decepticon punks, listen up. I dunno exactly what's going on here, but how's about a little taste of Moonracer to liven your day? Chapter 103, Gravity Hurts. Ah, phew. Alright, Jetfire, you should be good to go. As carnage and destruction happened on the other side of the planet, Meihatsume had just wrapped up her repairs on Jetfire. Thankfully, the damage to his back was only minor, though his thrusters were a much different story. It was times like this that she was grateful for all of the lessons that Red Alert had given her in handling Cybertronian tech, what little they had, and in time, she had managed to fix the large, red booster pack. And for his part, Jetfire himself was impressed. "Ha, kid, you just keep surprising me," he said as he lifted the pack off the ground and reattached it to his back. "Course, with how you kids keep pulling off crazy stuff, I probably shouldn't be anymore, but hey. Hee, well, I think you'll find that your jet thrusters have a bit more of a kick to 'em now, Jets." May chortled, spinning her wrench around between her fingers. "Just had to make a couple teeny tiny adjustments." The Autobot's second-in-command grinned down at her. Well, I'll be sure to give him a go once I get out there, but first, there's someone else who's gotta get back on his feet." And just like that, May's countenance grew serious as they set their attention over across the room, where Red Alert and Signal Flare were busy doing important work. Unfortunately, Bumblebee's condition hadn't been as easy to maintain as they'd thought. They had gone to remove his spark to place it within the protoform, only to find that it was now impossible to remove safely thanks to the extensive damage to his body. Surgically removing it will take too long. Red Alert deduced. We'd have to stop the flow of energon to do it, and who knows how long he'd last without it. So then what do we do? Signal Flare questioned. We'll have to change this procedure from a spark transfer to a complete reformatting. You know how risky that is, right? The weaponsmith countered. Placing the whole body within the protomatter so it can dissolve into it, it'll reduce B's processor down with it. There could be a chance that his memory banks reset entirely. That's true, but thankfully, B's head was left mostly undamaged. Red placed his hand upon the yellow bot's helm. And from what Windblades told us, B's memories are fairly strong. Even when he was left with amnesia, all it took was one session with a cortical psychic patch to help him regain them. I have faith that he'll be alright. Signal Flare contemplated the medic's words. Faith, suppose that's a lot of what we have to work with at this point. He took a deep intake and nodded. Alright, let's do it. From behind, May and Jetfire approached. Is everything ready? The former asked. Red Alert nodded to her. Yes, where are the Yaoyorozus? Before any of them could reply, he received his answer when he heard a car engine rev up from outside and drive straight into the base. There, they saw Taro Yaoyorozu bring his cherry red 2025 Chevrolet Camaro through the front entrance and toward them in the main room, with Yua right beside him in the passenger seat. They came to a stop and disembarked, the millionaire man grinning up at them. Hey bots, figured you could use this. He called out. Huh, Signal Flare uttered. What do you mean? Why for Bumblebee's new vehicle form, of course. Yua clarified. You'd think that'd be obvious. Taro pat the top of his car with pride. If Bee's gonna have a brand new body, then it's only fitting that he have a new alternate mode to go with it. One that's much stronger than his old one. He added with a smirk, think of all the heads he'll turn. It'll be great. The others, however, were a bit skeptical. Aren't we trying to not draw attention to ourselves? Jetfire inquired. We kinda don't want to turn heads. Says the supersonic jet. Taro pointed out with a deadpan tone. Plus, most of you already transform into sports cars anyway, so what's the harm with one more? He's got a point. May shrugged. Red Alert nodded. Right, then let's get started. On his word, Signal Flare stopped flowing energon into Bumblebee's body, allowing Red to pick up his torso. Signal Flare took up Bee's legs and they slipped them into the pod directly over the protoform. From there, Red Alert took to the main control console and began typing in the necessary code. Beginning merge. With a press of a button, the protoform destabilized into a liquid metal state, and May watched with apprehension as Bumblebee's body began to melt into it. And then, he was completely gone, with only his spark laying in the center of the amorphous blob. See you soon, Bee. From there, Red Alert put in a different code, prompting the pod to declare. Beginning protoform stabilization. Ready to initiate reformatting sequence. Scanners online. From out of the POD's console, said scanner emerged and began projecting a yellow beaming light, which passed over the Camaro successfully. Compatible alternate mode found. Steadying himself, Red Alert's finger hovered over the button. Here goes, everything. Click. Reformatting sequence initiated. Within the pod, the protoform resolidified into a bipedal shape, though now, it was a fair bit bigger than it was initially. And in time, Bee's spark began to beat faster, the protoform's entire body beginning to reshape itself into something different. Unfortunately, no one could truly see how since it was also giving off a bright light, blinding them to it. Gah! May covered her eyes. What's happening? Relax, this is normal. Red insisted. Give it time. However, his own spark would skip a beat when he heard something alarming. Danger. Danger. Energy output destabilizing. Stasis pod overload imminent. No. Hastily typing into the console, Red Alert attempted to keep the pod stable for just a while longer. Come on, don't give out now. We just need a few more moments. At that point, though, the pod began smoking out the sides, and there was even a fire starting near the bottom. It's gonna blow. Signal Flare warned, just as a hand shot out of the pod. He gathered May and the Yaoyorozus to cover them, despite the former's protests. Red. Bee. She cried. But then, ka-boom. A plume of fire and billowing smoke blasted straight out of the pod, knocking Red Alert back several feet into the base of the ground bridge. Ow. Within seconds, the base's sprinkler system kicked on and began dousing the whole room in water, much to the medic's chagrin. Bumblebee. Shooting to his feet, Red Alert rushed forward through the smoke, only to see the pod completely burnt to a crisp. He fell to his hands and knees in stunned disbelief. No. It didn't take long for Signal Flare and the humans to join him, all of them soaked to the gills. Red, what? May let out a shriek at the sight of the charred stasis pod, as well as the fact that the protoform was completely gone. Please don't tell me. May's eyes began tear up as her lips quivered, staggering over to Red Alert's hand. Don't tell me he's... I'm afraid. Thoom. But then, the sound of approaching footfalls made everyone grow silent, their sights shifting toward the cloud of smoke, to see a tall figure looming within. They couldn't quite make it out at first, but it was clear that it was rather tall, about 16 feet, though it appeared bigger thanks to the pair of wings that were propped up on its back. In time, the smoke began to clear, and they could see a pair of blue optics staring back at them. And once the smoke was completely gone, everyone broke out into wide, happy smiles, at the sight of the color yellow. Is that?" Taro uttered. Within a matter of seconds, May's anguish was replaced with absolute joy that welled up within her. They had done it. SNFF, yeah, he's back. Back in Mission City, meanwhile, RC and Springer had just arrived at the bridge, right on time to see all of the damage to it suddenly get repaired. Bong, the stunning display was accompanied by a loud bell that chimed across the area, followed by a blue glow that made every bit of rubble, debris or even overturned cars fall right back into place. Needless to say, their whole group was left dumbfounded by what was going on, with Ochako's mouth hanging open and her eyes so wide that her pupils looked like pinpricks. "EHHHH. What the heck is going on?" the brunette exclaimed. "I haven't the slightest idea," Shoto muttered under his breath. Jinx and Budo climbed out of RC and proceeded toward the bridge as the light died down. "Sweetheart, this isn't you, right?" the samurai asked. Glancing toward her husband, Jinx shook her head. "No, believe me, I'd know if this were my quirk's doing. I can turn luck in my favor, but not like this." Once Snipe and the kids joined them, Springer and RC transformed, the triple changer eyeing the bridge warily. At the same time, he also spotted Jazz's group about halfway across the structure, along with the mutants as well. "Let's head over and see what's going on. But be careful, I don't exactly trust CRA Chow." But right then and there, they were once again taken off guard when they saw Blitzwing come crashing down in front of the others, with Shadow Striker perched on his shoulder. And if that weren't enough, he instantly froze Jazz in place, followed by Shadow aiming her rifle down at the others. "No!" RC screamed, bringing out her swords and charging at the cons from behind. "Shadow Striker! RC, wait!" Ochako hollered, but then, whoop, coom. All of a sudden, everyone was forced to cover their ears as something broke through the sound barrier, and it became pretty clear what that was only a moment later. Look, up there!" Snipe pointed up over the bridge, where a big ship had just shot out of the sky. And at the moment, it was hovering over the others. "Crap, please don't tell me those cons brought reinforcements," the cowboy grumbled. "I don't think so." Springer grinned, seeing the insignia on the bottom. "Haha, that's an Autobot recon ship." "No way." Ochako beamed in excitement. "Does that mean," as if to answer her question, she saw a rather kind-looking femme come strolling out from the rear hatch of the ship before falling down in the middle of the conflict, which was when the ship closed up and began to fly off in a different direction. But not before it suddenly came to a halt and once again hovered in midair, directly over their heads now. "By Trion's beard, am I seeing this right?" a male voice spoke over the ship's loudspeaker. "Springer, is that you?" Springer's optics lit up, recognizing the voice. "Tap out. Ahaha, no slaggin' way. Dude, it's good to see you," the one called, Tap Out, proclaimed. "Never imagined I'd find you on this backwater rock. Hey, watch it. This, backwater rock, is a lot more than that." Springer waved. "We'll catch up later, though. I'm guessing you've got more stops to make." "Oh, yeah, this baby's full of Autobots looking for a good scrap." Pulling away higher into the sky, Tap Out gave his friend one final farewell. "See ya later, Springs. Go help my pal Moonracer kick some Decepticons." As the ship flew away, Moonracer also gave it one last wave, though her sights never left the Decepticons. "So, who wants to come at me first, I'll warn ya, though, I've been cooped up for so many solar cycles, so whoever goes first, well," she swung her hammer off her shoulder to grip it with both hands. "You're gonna get the worst of it." There was nothing but silence at her declaration, until Blitzwing changed faces again. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT**HOOHOOHOOHOO. "Oh, now that is rich. You should be a comedian, because what you just said is, WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT**, the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life." Raising his element gun again, the inside of the barrel began to glow red with heat energy. Now die, you pathetic excuse of a Cybertronian. Ka-pow. Hup. Just as the burst of piping hot firepower was unleashed, Moonracer hopped up and dodged it with ease, much to Blitzwing's shock. Before he had time to react, she landed on his back and leaned down next to his head. Oh, and would ya look at that? We have a volunteer. Hey, get off. Shadow Striker went to kick Moonracer, only to realize that she was using the bad leg with no foot. Gah, merd, never mind. Instead, she whipped her arm up, aiming her gun at the annoyance. Just die. Rat-a-tat-tat. But once again, Moonracer simply rolled away with surprising speed, and that's when she activated the jet on her hammer. Hiya. Clang. Hurrrr. Blitzwing was struck right in the gut, sending him straight back while throwing Shadow Striker off his shoulder completely. And then, without even stopping her swing, Moonracer spun around on her heel and hit the assassin straight in her other leg right on the knee, blowing it off completely. Ah-ag. Shadow was sent straight to the pavement and Moonracer kicked her gun away, leaving her completely defenseless. Blitzwing, help. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*, with haste, Fräulein. Pulling the trigger of his weapon again, Blitzwing intended to freeze Moonracer right where she stood, but once more, she simply zipped around the bridge, allowing the ice to build up until it served as the perfect platform for her to jump off of. What? How? Right as she closed in on him, though, Moonracer flicked her wrist, and her hammer changed into a handheld pulse cannon, just in time for her to press it against the Triple Changer's shoulder. Oh, and by the way, I'm a Velocitronian. Pow! And with a single shot, Moonracer sent Blitzwing hurtling across the bridge, where he sent skidding along until stopping at the feet of Springer, RC, and their human allies. Damn, I think Tap Out might have been wrong about that, the former said as Blitzwing fell unconscious. She does not need our help. Where did he find this femme? Ochako wondered out loud. I think she said she was from Velocitron. RC noted. It's one of Cybertron's many colony planets. And yeah, with how fast she was, that checks out. With a little hum and a skip in her step, Moonracer converted her weapon back into its hammer form as she came up to the frozen Jazz. She leaned forward and raised her hammer up, much to everyone's concern. Wait. Kyoko warned. Don't. Dink. Thankfully, the Velocitron native didn't go too hard on the strike, only hitting the ice in just the right spot to get it to start cracking. And, in time, the whole thing shattered, freeing Jazz. WHWHWHU, the lieutenant shivered, hugging his arms around himself. So cold, man. WW what the heck was? You're welcome, sir. Moonracer saluted cheerily. Always happy to help. I'm sorry, WHWH who are you? Moonracer extended her hand, shaking Jazz's trembling one. The name's Moonracer, friend. Nice to meet you. She then promptly set her optics down on the humans below, squatting down while propping herself by her hammer. And ooh, this planet's inhabited by more cute, tiny organics. And in such neat costumes, too. Were you going to a party when all of this happened, little people? The group of heroes stared at her incredulously, with Kyoko leaning toward Izuku and whispering, is it just me, or does she seem a bit scatterbrained? A little bit, yeah. Retracting his helmet, Izuku addressed the new arrival directly. No, we're superheroes, Miss Moonracer, right? Yeah. Moonracer's optics widened with intrigue. So you guys are these heroes we've been hearing so much about. Everyone on board the Kimia was talking about how this planet had them in abundance, but I didn't think they'd be this colorfully. Pow! She was cut off when a harpoon suddenly shot out from behind her, though she merely moved her head to the side to avoid it. Ahem. The group's attention went back toward the pretenders, the monstrous mutants all scowling at them. Did you all seriously forget about us? Octopunch growled. This fight is far from over. Woo 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 woo. In the very next second, an approaching siren heralded the arrival of Barricade, the crooked cop transforming and ejecting Frenzy immediately. He's right, he exclaimed, taking aim at Moonracer. I don't know who you are or where you've come from, but if you think you can just waltz in here and... Sir. Moonracer raised her hammer and pumped the action on its handle, charging its head with power before unleashing it with a wave of energy. Caught off guard, the pretenders and barricade were thrown backward, with several cars piling on them for good measure. "I'm talking to my new friends. I will get to you in a minute," she asserted, with Jazz and the humans staring dumbfoundedly. "Damn, that hammer is something else." Mirko smirked as Snake Eyes sheathed his sword, sensing no immediate danger. And if that wasn't enough to reassure him, another arrival was. "You're damn right it is." Springer spoke up, having finally made it to the scene with RC and the others. "In fact, it's Wrecker standard issue." "Springer." Kyoka smiled, spotting her friend rushing over. "Ochako. Guys, you're okay." The gravity user waved as she, Shoto, Izuku and Kyoka all met up. The Joes did much the same, with Jinx and Budo greeting Snake Eyes with a bow. "Master. It's good to see you all unharmed." The Kunoichi smiled. Placing her hands on her hips, Mirko nudged her chin at Snipe. "How things been with your group, cowboy? Been shootin' cons real good, I hope." "Hey, you expect anything less?" Snipe twirled his pistol around before holstering it. "I was ready to do some more, but I can see that things seem pretty under control here." Approaching Moonracer, RC sent her a grateful smile. "And we owe our thanks to you, Moonracer. Your arrival couldn't have been better timed." She glanced down to the helpless Shadow Striker, giving her a sneer. "You certainly did a number on him, and I'm quite glad for it." "Hate you," Shadow Striker grumbled weakly. "Hate you all." Meanwhile, Shoto asked the most prominent question on his mind. "So what was the deal with that weird blue light we saw?" "Yeah, the one that fixed the bridge." Ochako tilted her head. Was it someone's quirk being used? Before Izuku could explain the situation, the one behind the light stepped forward to do it himself. "Ah, that would actually be my doing," Ace said with a polite bow of his head. "My name is Ace, and I'm here to help." Hearing that, Ochako perked up. "Oh, cool. Are you a local hero?" "Ochako, he's speaking Japanese," Kyoka pointed out with a deadpan tone. "Oh, yeah, right." Ochako bonked herself on the head. "Silly me." Ace chuckled and waved in assurance. "Hey, it's alright. Though to be fair, I still haven't explained myself fully yet." He could feel Kyoka and Izuku's eyes boring into his back, leading him to glance at them with a knowing smile. "And I'm sure you're quite interested to hear what's going on, Izuku furrowed his brows with a nod. "To say the least. Mr. Ace, who are you?" The mysterious man went to answer, but once again, incoming laser fire cut him off and forced everyone to duck. "Enough of this." Barricade barked as he and the pretenders got back to their feet. "I'm tired of us being ignored. Fight us, damn you. Kids, get away from here." Jinx heated as she, Snake Eyes and Budo armed themselves with their swords. "We'll hold these monsters back." "Jazz, you're not fit to fight with your systems this cold," Springer advised, pulling out his swords to confront the crooked cop. Following him were Mirko and Snipe, ready to do battle as well. "Take the kids and get away from here. DD don't have to tell me twice," Jazz said before slowly transforming into his vehicle mode, making sure to put his heaters on max. "G get in, kids. Sorry if it's chilly." However, the teens were quick to protest against this. "Hold on, where do you expect us to even go?" Kyoka questioned. "We've already come this far, we should see it through to the end." To her surprise, however, Ace was the first one to agree with her. "You're correct, Miss Jiro, but not in the way you might think." He gave the group a knowing wink. "I heard that you all are looking for a way down below to retrieve a spaceship, is that right?" Seeing their shocked expressions, Ace pressed his middle and ring fingers together on his thumb, sticking his pointer and pinky out. So I was right. Follow me, I'll bring you all where you need to go." However, Kyoka barged forward before anyone could agree. "Okay, Ace, if that even is your real name," she marched up and pointed at his face. "You might have charmed your way into getting us to trust you, but I'm not going along with anything you say until you tell us exactly who you are and why you've been spying on us." Kyoka then whipped her arms around toward Izuku. "And why exactly are you so interested in him becoming an actual, common rider?" Miss Jiro, I understand your concerns." Ace sighed. "But right now, we have little time to lose. I'll explain things more when we get to where we need to go, I promise." "Honestly, as strange as this may sound, I'm with him on this one," RC said, to the astonishment of everybody. At this point, we're low on options and time. We need to get to that spacecraft underground before the cons get to the Energon. If he knows a way down, then his way might be the best bet we have at getting there first. Kyoka eyed her incredulously. What? You just met him? The pink femme placed her hands on her hips. Kyoka, it's either this or the cons win. Take your pick. Ultimately, she saw the punk rocker lower her head in defeat, though not without some begrudging grumbles. Okay, Mr. Ace, if you'd please lead the way. I'd be happy to. But first, reaching behind his back, Ace pulled out a rather odd-looking trinket. It had a bike handle sticking straight out of one side while the other had a semicircle made of clear material, the inside of it designed to look like a speed gauge. On its front, the object had two panels that had exhaust pipes molded into them, vacuum sealed in a metallic red coating. Ace grabbed the handle and throttled it, causing the panels to split and the pipes to suddenly expel bursts of fire, to everyone's surprise. And then, BOOSTRIKER. Vroom. The entire group were astonished when, from out of nowhere, a red and black motorcycle with white accents suddenly appeared in front of them, rolling to a stop right at Ace's side. The bike was clearly modified, with the main tail being the 6 thin exhaust pipes on its rear end. Each side had 3 and they were mainly silver with colorful tips at the back, making it seem like the bike had 6 tails. With a snap of his fingers, Ace summoned a bike helmet into his hands and slipped it on over his head before mounting the vehicle. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's get moving. I'm sorry, but no, you cannot just summon a bike from out of thin air without a proper explanation. Kyoka argued. Kyoka, please. Izuku asserted. Once we're away from the battle, we can start asking questions. Yeah, and besides, Moonracer's optics began to glow as she started scanning the summoned bike with anticipation. He's just brought me my new vehicle mode. The very second that she was done, she did a backflip and transformed. Her arms shifted up over her head to form the main seat of the bike while her chest moved up to form the front, with one of her wheels moving from her shoulder to accommodate the new alt mode. The remaining wheel, meanwhile, split in half and took the now vacant shoulder, only to then refuse to form the rear wheel. Finally, her legs tucked up to form the bike's undercarriage. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. But something wasn't quite right. The bike she transformed into did heavily resemble the Boostriker that she scanned, but it was a lot more pedestrian. Now without the 6 exhaust pipes, she had just transformed into a green Honda CBR 650F. Though there was one bit of modification that she had added herself. Her hammer had folded in on itself and plugged into her rear second under the bike's rear, the jet booster sticking out for some extra speed. Huh, that's weird. I should have transformed into an exact copy of his bike. Beneath his helmet, Ace grinned to himself. Sorry, but this bike cannot be copied one-to-one. Seems you're stuck with the base model. Ah well, good enough, I guess. Moonracer promptly rolled up to Izuku, much to his surprise. Hey, kid, you want a lift? Me. Ride on you. Izuku stammered. Yeah, not every day I get to give organics a lift. Come on, it'll be fun. The greenette was hesitant, but Kyoka gave him a small nudge in the back. Hey, I dunno what Ace's deal is, but if he says you're a common rider, ya might as well ride, right? Still hesitant, Izuku pursed his lips in thought, only to ultimately let out a short sigh and give in. Yeah, I guess I should. Bringing his respirator back over his mouth, Izuku activated his mask again and swung his leg over Moonracer's seat, mounting her and grabbing her handles. Just so you know, this is my first time. Hee, don't worry. I'll be gentle, VRRROOOMM. But the moment Moonracer's engine revved to life, Izuku snapped his head back, seeing the very tip of a flaming jet already being expelled from the rear booster. Just kidding. You'll be walking funny for a while. Let's go. NYOOOOOM. Ah. And just like that, Deku and Moonracer were off like a shot, leaving a trail of brilliant green light behind them. Well, we'd better get after them. Ace resolved, revving up his own bike before shooting off as well, leaving a path of fire in his wake. Kyoka, Ochako and Shoto were still completely dumbfounded, even as they got into Jazz and RC to follow. With a hand to her forehead, the perplexed couldn't help but ask herself, what have we gotten ourselves into? Back across the bridge, Roadbuster and Bakugo were starting to lose steam, more so the latter as his quirk was being pushed to its limits. At this rate, he'd have no more sweat to give, already feeling dehydrated after all of the Viacons he'd blown up by that point. And not far away, he could see Roadbuster's knees start to buckle as Lugnut swung his hammer down, the wrecker blocking it with the handle of his own. Damn it, can't give up. He smacked his palms against the ground and forced himself to his feet, rushing toward the conflict. Roadbuster. Boom. Launching himself into the fight, he grabbed the pin of his remaining grenade gauntlet and aimed it straight at Lugnut, who saw him coming a mile away. Quarrelsome whelp. The Decepticon bruiser growled as he kicked Roadbuster away. What use is there in a head-on attack if you have nothing to? Diiiee. Kra chow. Lugnut quickly found out exactly what Bakugo's plan was when he was met with a potent blast that shot him straight through his good shoulder, now leaving him with 2 major injuries in each one. Yeah. Stumbling back, Lugnut managed to catch himself on a building, his arms still functional but now quite weak, to the point where he was forced to drop his hammer, right on his foot. Ponk. Quadruple A erg. Bakugo let out a loud cackle, seeing the brutish Decepticon reduced to a trembling ball of pain as he gripped his foot. Ahahaha. Not so tough now that ya can't lift your dumb hammer, are ya? He raised his palms up toward Lugnut's head, ready to finish it. This fight's over. At this point, however, Lugnut was seething with pent-up rage, the explosion user effectively getting on his nerves. And him dropping his hammer was the last straw. No bot had ever successfully done something like that, but this weakling did. And Lugnut wouldn't stand for it. Yes, for you. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT all at once. Lugnut raised his left arm up high and, below the elbow, it transformed into a massive detonator with a big red button in the center. And from behind his elbow, a massive booster popped out, already spewing flames. Understandably, this made Roadbuster panic. Kid, get out of there. Huh. Katsuki peered back at the wrecker irritably. Why should I? That's the POKE, ya little scrap. The what? It became quite clear to Roadbuster that Katsuki wasn't going to move, so he decided that he had to move and get him clear himself, but not without one last-ditch effort to get through to the Ashen Blonde. The punch of kill everything. And that seemed to work, as Katsuki's eyes darted up to the blinking red button, that was now coming straight down at him. Die, human, Lugnut bellowed. CHYOOOOOM. Sha va kum. It was too late. Roadbuster was forced to stop as the blast encompassed everything surrounding Lugnut, bringing down buildings and creating a massive crater in the middle of the road. No, he hollered, covering his face as smoke and fire blew past him. By the time the explosion had dissipated, there was nothing left but a smoking hole in the ground, where Lugnut remained almost completely unharmed. The sight left Roadbuster in utter shock, the wrecker kneeling upon the ground and using his hammer as support. Kid. Ha ha ha. Yes. To the best of his ability, Lugnut lifted his arms in celebration. That is what awaits you when you try to confront the Deceptico, AAAGHH. But the moment he lifted that arm he used for the POKE, it fell off, the wound sparking and leaking energon. With his grip tightening on his hammer, Roadbuster saw an opportunity. Not just to defeat Roadbuster, but to exact vengeance as well. Lugnut, you bastard. The jets on the back of his hammer kicked to life in an instant and he propelled himself toward the crater, ready to lunge down and deliver the final blow. Your dia. CHYOOOOOM. Huh. However, the wrecker was stopped short when, from out of nowhere, a blue streak whizzed by and came to an abrupt halt in front of him. Upon taking a few steps back, Roadbuster did a double take when he saw that it was, in fact, a Cybertronian vehicle, one that was incredibly aerodynamic, and looked really fast as a result. What the? Ah, sweetness. The blue car suddenly spoke, leaving Roadbuster even more perplexed. I knew if I just drove around a bit, I'd find a bot to help out sooner or later. Just then, the top hatch opened up, revealing something that left Roadbuster stunned. I believe this belongs to you, my new colossal compatriot. There, sitting in the front passenger seat, was Katsuki. And he seemed quite shaken. Hua. Kid. Roadbuster knelt down, helping him out. Kid, talk to me, are you alright? Staggering out of the car, Bakugo fell to his knees, his head still spinning. Why yeah, I think so. With a trembling hand, he held his head, coming to terms with what had almost happened to him. It all happened so fast. I was about to be blown to bits and I used to this was a bunch of bull crap, but I actually did see my life flash in my eyes. This intrigued Roadbuster, noting the boy's change in demeanor. And what did ya see? Lots. Some things I don't regret, a lot of things I do. With his jaw clenched, Katsuki finally found the wherewithal to stand, even if his legs still shook. I'm gonna sound kinda cheesy for saying this, but I've got a lot to think about when I get out of this. Speakin' from experience, a near-death experience will do that to ya. Roadbuster nodded. But hey, least ya got a chance to actually do that thinkin', and ya owe it to our new pal here. He tilted his head back toward the blue alien vehicle. Speakin' of, just who the hell are ya, Speedy? *****. Faster than either of them could blink, the bot assumed robot mode, his cockpit rotating around to form his chest while the front of his vehicle mode shifted onto his back. His front tires were on the backs of his shoulders while the rear tires were inside of his feet. All in all, the bot himself was just as streamlined as his vehicle mode, and his swept-back helm was more than enough to prove that. Hey, well first of all, the name's not Speedy, he said with a smarmy smile before placing a hand to his chin. But I can see how you'd assume that since, well, I am the fastest thing on 4 wheels, if ya don't mind me saying so. And just like that, the pair grimaced. Oh god, Katsuki muttered. Here we go. The blue bot jutted a thumb to his chest. At any rate, the name's Blur. I've been sent here by my pals to help you out of this nasty little conundrum you've gotten yourselves into. Didn't think we'd wind up right in the middle of a Decepticon invasion by the time we entered your atmosphere, but... Whoa, kid, slow the frag down. Roadbuster insisted. You're running your mouth faster than I can keep up with. What are ya, from Velocitron or something? Actually, yeah, I am. HMPH, well, that explains it. Bunch of speed demons don't know when to slow down. Puffing out his chest, Blur owned the jab at him. And proud of it, though it's obvious you haven't been in a while, because otherwise, you'd probably know me. Fastest racer on the planet, yes sir. Behind his mask, Roadbuster smirked. Oh, so you've beaten Override, And just like that, he saw Blur's confidence crumble and start stammering. Hey, figured, no bot alive's been able to beat her. Well, I will. Just you wait, big guy, I'm gonna. Insolent little upstart. Pow 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 pow. The trio were forced to duck and cover as Lugnut emerged from the crater, his chest cannons taking aim and firing at them. Though he seemed to be focused on Blur exclusively. You denied me the destruction I sought. For that, you shall pay. Blur, with a confident grin, took note of Lugnut's wild blasting, knowing that he'd be able to run circles around it. Oh, where are my manners? I forgot the universal greeting. Flexing his neck and whipping his arms, the speedster loosened himself up before darting into the line of fire, leaving a blue streak in his wake while shouting, Ba weep. CHYOOM asterisk. Gra na. CHYOOM asterisk. Weep. CHYOOM. And in 3 rushes, he was right in Lugnut's face, with his arm converted into a taser. Nini bong. ZZZZZAAAPP. RAAAAAUUGHH. With Lugnut incapacitated and spasming with paralysis, Blur looked back at Roadbuster and signaled, he's all yours, big guy. Hey, thanks. With a twist of his hammer's handle, Roadbuster charged the head with a fiery energy before swinging the hammer out, sending it all in a wave that struck Lugnut straight in the chest. In the end, the Decepticon bruiser was sent hurtling back into the crater from whence he came, slipping into stasis lock soon after. And with that, Blur rushed back over to the wrecker and the human, wiping his forehead of sweat that wasn't there. Woo, now that was a fun one. My first proper Decepticon takedown. Feels a lot more satisfying than just bringing down con wannabes on Velocitron. That got a laugh out of Roadbuster, who gave Blur a hearty pat on the back that nearly toppled him. Ha. Glad ya feel that way, kid, cuz you're about to get that feelin' a whole lot more. CRAAAASH. Just then, the trio were taken aback by a loud sound off in the distance, and in just a few seconds, it became clear what that was. High above, they could see a very tall building collapse, sending a huge plume of dust and debris into the air. And shortly thereafter, an equally loud roar could be heard. Raaaaaauuuughh. Devastator says, your end is near. Oh shit. Bakugo uttered. My thoughts exactly. Roadbuster echoed, crouching down and placing a hand on Bakugo's shoulder. Kid, as much as I want ya to come with me, you're running low on steam and still shaken from that last battle. Talkin' on Devastator. Yeah, Katsuki muttered, silently frustrated with himself. He didn't want to admit it to anyone else, but, damn it, why am I so scared of that thing? With clenched teeth and fists, he gave a stern glare at Roadbuster. Hey, make sure to give him one for me, okay? The wrecker nodded without question. Hey, you bet. Blur, get the kid away from here. With how fast you go, it shouldn't take you long to find more Autobots. Blur gave a two-fingered salute. Gotcha gotcha. Good luck out there, my colossal compadre. Asterisk word stish stish seeked asterisk fast as can be, Blur transformed and opened his cockpit for Bakugo. Come on and strap in, little buddy, we're gonna go find your friends. I'm not your buddy. Katsuki rolled his eyes, complying with Blur nonetheless. And they're not my, well, I guess one of them is my friend, but the rest of them are teammates at best. The comment made Blur want to wince. Yeesh, well aren't you pleasant? Anyone ever tell you you've got kind of a bad attitude? Of course, Bakugo's first instinct was to get angry, but between generally being exhausted and seeing Roadbuster drive away in the rearview, he really couldn't find it in him. So instead, yeah, they do. A lot of them do, actually. Then why keep up the bad boy routine, dude? Blur asked as he drove off, making sure to stay at a reasonable speed to make sure the ashen blonde wouldn't get sick. With tightened lips, Katsuki sighed and lowered his head. It's a long story. Several minutes earlier. With teeth grit and muscles aching, MT. Lady was doing her best to keep the Decepticon gestalt before her at bay. Just as she suspected, Devastator wound up being an incredibly overwhelming opponent, his sheer size and weight proving to be a literal mountain of an obstacle to overcome. But, even so, she made sure not to give even a single inch to him. She knew she was on the back foot, and by now, her costume was starting to rip and tear in several places, thankfully none that were unflattering. She was also starting to bleed from several cuts and bruises across her arms and legs, but even so, she wasn't about to give up. She stood firm in place, ignoring the numbness that was starting to go down her right leg as she balled her fists again. And Devastator laughed. Ahahaha. Your resilience is impressive, but Devastator's is unmatched. Nothing defeats the Devastator. Nothing. Raw. He charged ahead with arms raised and ready to clobber MT. Lady, which is exactly what she was hoping for. Gotcha. In a split second, she ducked under Devastator's swinging fists and slung herself into his midsection, her shoulder striking him right in the gut. But she didn't stop there as she used his momentum to then lift him directly up and over herself, before bringing him down right on top of his head. Sensational. Toning GG asterisk, suplex. The sound of Devastator's head going into the street was heard all around, including back where the main battle in front of City Hall was happening. And the tremor that happened afterward only caught the group's attention even more, well, at least when it came to All Might. He had Rumble and Ravage by the throat when it happened, knocking their heads together to render them unconscious. My, he said, smiling as he put a hand over his eyes. Now that's quite the move. She keeps that up and Kyaaaaa. Ow. All Might flinched at the incoming laser fire, courtesy of Laserbeak who dive-bombed him soon after. The Cybertronian Condor flapped and scratched his face with his talons, pecking the top of his head all the while. Ack, pata. Get your claws out of me, you aggravating avian. Grabbing a hold of Laserbeak's leg, he managed to pull the cassette bot off of him and slam him straight into the ground, trapping him within the pavement. Ah, how annoying. Safeguard, how are you holding up? Goo, poorly. Safeguard piped up, the mini-con combiner being bombarded by sound courtesy of Skullcruncher. And their force fields were, unfortunately, not soundproof. A little help would be appreciated. Skullcruncher simply laughed before blasting a burst of sonic energy at All Might, pushing the hero back before he could even move. Ahaha. Don't even think about it. This fight's between US Minicon combiners, so either shape up or lay down, Gia. However, from behind, Roller suddenly drove up and transformed, latching onto Skullcruncher by the neck and yanking back hard. This resulted in the sonic attack being redirected away from Safeguard, allowing them to stand back up and charge at their opponent once again. HYAAAH. They struck with a flying kick straight to Skullcruncher's midsection, which managed to separate the duo then and there. Roller kept a firm hold on Beastbox as he hit the ground, pummeling the Gorilla Minicon while Skullcruncher tried to fly off. Though thankfully, All Might leapt up and came down hard on top of the Eagle bot, pulling back on his wings to stop him from flying off. Put ME in a bind, will you? Well, let's see how you like it. RAWK. Uncle. Uncle. Skullcruncher screeched. Auntie. Auntie. Beastbox hollered, only for Roller to pick him up, spin him upside down and then deliver a straight piledriver down into the top of his head, knocking him out. All Might did much the same with Skullcruncher, though his was a simple double axe handle strike to the noggin. Minnesota, smash. And with that, all of Soundwave's minions were left either knocked out or incapacitated, much to their relief. Phew. Nice work, everyone. Now we can focus our efforts on helping Optimus. As Safeguard separated back into three, Roller stood up and sent a knowing smile across the battlefield. Oh, I don't think that'll be a problem, All Might, he pointed out. Look there. Setting his sights out towards City Hall, the #1 hero watched on in silent awe as the aforementioned Prime fought on, even through seemingly overwhelming odds. He and Rodimus were going at one another, axe against sword, in a clash that saw sparks fly as their blades scraped against one another. However, Rodimus took advantage of an opening, bringing his forearm blasters at point blank and shooting Prime in the chest. But that did little more than singe the Autobot leader and send him skidding back several feet. And if anything, this only gave him an advantage as he started hawking energy axe projectiles at Rodimus. Ah. ACH. Damn you. The general seethed as he rebounded the bursts with his sword and charged forward again. Fall, Prime. Not today, Optimus assured, parrying Rodimus' strike and then kicking him away. But it was then that the Decepticon cavalry arrived, with Soundwave flying in from above in his stealth bomber mode to collide into Optimus. But Prime proved to be quicker on his feet, jumping up and over Soundwave, right as Skybite flew in and aimed one of his torpedo mini-cons at him. Verily, thy destruction awa, ates. His postulating was cut off when Optimus wrenched his arm and brought him right to the ground, redirecting Dragonus at an incoming Starscream. Pow! Yog! Skybite, you fool! The Seeker hollered as he fumbled backward and transformed into vehicle mode to take flight. Get it together. Working on it, Soundwave said as he aimed his shoulder-mounted cannon at Optimus, unleashing a sonic blast at him. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. In an instant, however, Prime transformed and did a donut on the concrete, his tires screeching as his trailer hitch slammed into Soundwave's legs and tripped him up. Then, within seconds, Optimus assumed robot mode again and did an elbow drop right into his chest, cracking his clear compartment door. For the love of, fine. From under Starscream's wings, a pair of missiles popped out and launched straight at Optimus. I'll do it myself. Unfortunately, that plan proved ineffective as not only did All Might jump in and intercept one, Optimus caught the other one in his hand, whirling around and slamming it into Skybite's shoulder just as he was about to stand up. He then took the Sharkticon's claw hand, which was already reloaded with Sandsting, and aimed it at Soundwave, launching the other Minicon torpedo to send the communications specialist flying. And at this point, Starscream's anger was hitting its peak. Yah! He transformed and rammed straight into Prime's gut with his jets on at full blast, only for Optimus to then fling him directly into City Hall, where he bounced off the roof and into several trees. Optimus whipped back around and brought his Energon axe back out, just in time to block another incoming swing from Rodimus' sword. Do you even know the meaning of, quit, Prime? He barked. I assume that would have been made clear at this point. Optimus said with narrowed optics, glancing around to the three top cons as they were all laid out across the battlefield. Well, I am not them. The general spat with disdain. I'm superior to all of them. All thanks to this. In an instant, Unicron opened his chest plate, allowing the matrix of chaos to bathe Optimus in its eerie, purple light. Just as he expected, Prime Winston doubled back, doing his best to push Unicronus away. Ahahaha. Yes, the darkness of Unicron naturally repels you. Ha, only because, I haven't done this. Optimus opened his own chest plate, allowing the light of the matrix of leadership to shine its brightest. And just like that, Rodimus shied away as well. As you can see, we are at an impasse. The energies of Primus and Unicron naturally repel one another, so that will not be the key to either of us achieving victory. At the same time, however, the Prime was frustrated with himself. The dark spark still burns with overwhelming power. At this rate, he isn't weak enough for me to try and purify yet. Rodimus sneered and closed his chest, prompting Optimus to do the same. A fair point, Prime, but I will be the ultimate victor in this fight. Even if I have to end it. He tightened his grip on his sword, causing the edges of the blade to glow with red energy. Brutally, he charged ahead and jumped into the air, intending on stabbing Optimus between the optics. But once again, Optimus reacted quickly and launched his axe at the general, blowing him out of the sky. And with that, Prime charged ahead and speared him in the midsection as he came down, tackling him to the ground. I think not. He went for a downward swing from his axe and Rodimus quickly blocked it, the duo entering yet another struggle for dominance. You're fighting a losing battle, Prime. Rodimus proclaimed, as a smirk came to his face. Just look behind you and you'll see. Do you expect me to fall for, ah? Just then, however, Dragonus and Sandsting came in and latched onto Optimus' wrists, pulling him back and allowing Skybite to strike him in the head, creating a crack in his faceplate. Gah! The Sharkticon snickered as he, Starscream, Soundwave, and the other Predacons all reconvened, surrounding the Autobot leader. HMHMH, he speaks the truth, Prime. Just take a gander and see for yourself. Optimus followed where Skybite pointed, and was left horrified by what he saw. Devastator had MT. Lady lifted over his head and tossed her straight through a building, which collapsed with a thunderous CRAAAASH. RAAAAAUUUUGHH. Devastator says, your end is near. The Combiner proclaimed as he approached MT. Lady's motionless body, the young heroine bleeding profusely from her forehead. No, no, Optimus hollered, only to be silenced with another slap, this time courtesy of Starscream. Face it, it's over, Prime. The Seeker pointed in contempt. Our forces will overrun this city, and there's nothing you can do about, wah. Ka-boom, yeah. But Starscream was quickly silenced when, from out of nowhere, All Might came right back around, riding on the missile he'd procured, and threw it at the Seeker, blowing off his arm in the process. Then, with incredibly quick reflexes, the number one hero brought his hands together for a mighty clap. Tennessee, SMAAAAASH. Boom! All at once, the cons were all blown away, and he caught Optimus before he could be sent flying. Need a hand, old chum. The response he got wasn't the one he was expecting. I appreciate it, but I'm fine. Optimus pointed up at Devastator. Go help MT. Lady, she's in trouble. Right. All Might went to leap into action against the Combiner, but was suddenly stopped when something wet and slimy wrapped around him. Gah. What? SS is sir please. Slapper spat as he yanked All Might back toward him. Gas Skunk and Night scream, the trio of Preds all cackling with glee. This SSPP Tim, we're not letting you off SSSPPO easily. Dark Scream knocked his comrade on the shoulder. Slapper, don't ya know it's rude to talk with your mouth full. Here, he took his sword off his back and went to cleave straight through the number one hero. Let me get that for you, ah. However, All Might surprised them all by spinning in place and whipping Slapper around in the process, toppling the other two over. I don't have time for this, he said before flexing out of Slapper's tongue and continuing his way toward Devastator. By that point, though, the Gestalt was poised directly over MT. Lady, and had his hand cannon at the ready. Ahahaha. Even at your stature, humans prove lesser to us. He aimed at MT. Lady's head, the barrel of his giant rifle lighting up. And now UD. Pew 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 pew. Quadruple A ag. Before he could end the heroine's life, however, Devastator was met with an unexpected attack from above, forcing him to stagger away. Optimus, All Might and the rest of the Decepticons were collectively stunned when, from high in the sky, a Cybertronian recon ship came diving in and bombarded the Combiner. "What?" Starscream exclaimed, only to then see the Autobot insignia emblazoned across its hull. No, not more of them. Beneath his cracked mask, Optimus couldn't help but beam happily. Reinforcements had arrived. Thank Primus. "What are you doing, you fools?" Rodimus bellowed. "Attack that ship. Bring it down." The Decepticons swiftly followed his order, though they found out rather quick that wasn't going to work. All of their blasts were rebounded off of a powerful force field surrounding the craft, all while it leisurely spun around in the sky and opened its rear hatch. Strolling out onto the platform came 6 Autobots, all of varying heights and body types. The one in front was primarily blue with a red chest, his helm heavily resembling Optimus' own. He also had a rather large ladder on his back, and the cab of his truck mode appeared to be in his feet. "All right, Protectobots." He raised his hand, motioning for his team to follow. "Jump. Right behind ya, hot spot," called out the live, red and white both with a cubic helmet and blue face. On his back, his propeller rotors spun rapidly, allowing him to fly out over the battlefield while aiming his arm-mounted missiles at the enemy. "Take this, Decepticon punks. Courtesy of Blades," he shouted, launching his artilleries down and forcing them to scatter. As the others landed on terra firma, the white and red bot with ambulance iconography across his body scanned the area, seemingly searching for something. My scans show no sign of injured civilians around here, everyone. This area must have been evacuated already." He craned his head back around, focusing his scanners on MT. "Lady. But the giantess, I sense she has multiple injuries. She needs help." "Then go on and help her, first aid," the smallest member of the team said. He was a white and black bot with 2 wheels, one on his back and one split between his 2 lanky legs. His golden features turned up into a smirk while his blue visor shined eagerly. "We'll cover your flank of any Decepti bums that try to tail ya. Let's even the odds in Prime's favor, guys." 2 more bots were all too eager to get started, though the taller white bot with black and red detailing was quick to remind them all. "Indeed, Groove, but remember, it's important to follow protocol in times like these. The rescue takes priority, so at least half of us should accompany first aid in helping the giantess." The bulkier white and blue bot, meanwhile, was already busy punching Slapper's lights out. "Streetwise, I hate to be the spoil sport here, but we're kinda surrounded on all sides by enemies." Right on cue, Gas Skunk and Dark Scream came in, going to tackle Streetwise and Groove. The duo pulled out their blasters, warding the Predacons off with laser fire. "Not sure how much time we'll be afforded to follow protocol to AT. There's always time to be considerate, Rook," Hot Spot asserted as he walked over to Prime. "Remember that." He turned to address the Autobot leader with a salute. Optimus Prime, well, aren't you a sight for sore optics? But Optimus didn't salute back, instead settling a welcoming hand on his friend's shoulder. I should be saying that about you, Hot Spot, old friend. Where in the name of Vector Sigma did you all come from?" He asked this right as the Autobot vessel flew over their heads, going off to a different location. "And who is flying the ship?" "A friend of ours, Tap Out," Hot Spot answered. "As for where we came from, that'd be the Kimia space colony." "The Kimia, Flare-Up told us that it was headed toward Earth," Optimus recalled. "But I didn't think it'd be arriving this soon." Hot Spot shook his head, right as Skybite came up on them from the side. Raising his arm, Hot Spot's armor shifted up and a pair of nozzles sprung from his wrist, spraying the Sharkticon with fire-suppressant foam as he kept the conversation going. "It's not. The actual ship is still a week out. We were sent ahead when we learned of the Decepticons sending reinforcements to this planet. Brainstorm figured you could use an extra set of hands, or 12. Ahem. All Might piping up brought the bots' attention down to him, allowing him to salute up to the newcomer. "Well Prime, are you just gonna keep going back and forth, or am I gonna get a proper introduction to this fine bot?" Optimus chuckled and obliged. "Haha, yes, my apologies. This is Hot Spot, leader of the Protectobot squadron. They specialize in emergency rescues and law enforcement. And Hot Spot, this is All Might, this world's greatest hero." Once more, Hot Spot saluted. "It's an honor, sir. I'm to assume you're the leader of this world, then." "Ha, you kidding?" I can just barely lead a team of heroes into battle. For as good of a crime fighter that I am, put an entire country in my hands and I'd fail miserably. All the same, All Might reciprocated the gesture. But I'm glad you're here, soldier. Now we can finally turn the tide and RAAAAAAUUUUGHH. However, their talk was cut short with the return of Devastator, having gotten up from the earlier bombardment, and now even more angry than ever. You will pay for your transgressions against the mighty Devastator. What he didn't expect, though, were a pair of purple-gloved arms to suddenly come around from behind him and then throw him backward. Yeah. Slam with amazing force, MT. Lady had once again suplexed Devastator over her head, this time burying his whole head in a mountain of rubble. And just from her intense expression alone, everyone could see that she was not happy. It's one thing to ruin my costume, it's another to ruin my face. Without any remorse, she started kicking Devastator in the butt, all while screaming, I will end you. The bots and cons watched on in astonishment, with Groove commenting, suppose she wasn't as injured as ya thought, FA. No, she is. First aid denied. She's running off of pure adrenaline and spite right now. I give her about 5 to 10 minutes before she crashes. Then be ready, Protectobots. Hotspot announced. Once that happens, we'll get her to safety and, yow. The leader of the group was suddenly yanked out of the way by Blades, right as Rodimus was about to slice clean through him. Thanks Blades, But then, he and the other Protectobots gasped in shock when they saw him. Hot Rod. With a sinister grin, Unicronus made a, come at me, motion with his fingers. Oh, yes, Fire Chief, at least, partially. I'm the result of Hot Rod being left behind. Call me, Rodimus. With that, Starscream and Soundwave flanked him, aiming their weapons at the group as more Vehicons came down from above. And consider it the last name you'll ever learn. Decepticons, attack. As that was happening, Deku and the others had finally arrived at their destination, at least, he assumed so. The location that Ace had brought them was actually someplace that was somewhat familiar to them, a dilapidated warehouse that was no doubt abandoned. If it weren't for the fact that it was 5 stories tall, Izuku would have been quick to compare it to Autobot headquarters. He pulled to a stop and dismounted the Boostriker, taking off his helmet and saying, "We're here." Moonracer's tires screeched as she came to a halt as well. "Great. This is your stop, kid. Jay, just, give me a minute." Izuku insisted as he started to shakily dismount her, raising a trembling leg over her seat. Just like she suspected, the moment he got off, he started to wobblily walk away just as Jazz and RC arrived. And once he saw his friends, he was greeted by the girls just barely trying to contain their laughter. "Really? PFF'd, I'm sorry, Deku, but, she really didn't lie." Ochako pointed out. "Hee, yeah, you really are walking funny," Kyoka said before coming over and putting an arm around her friend's shoulders. "Don't worry, I've gotcha." As she helped Izuku move, the Autobots all transformed, leading Kyoka to look up to her partner. "You all right there, Jazz? How are you feeling?" A small shudder went through Jazz's body before he replied, I think I'm good. Runnin' my engines really helped me warm up a bit, so I'm sure I'll pull through." The lieutenant's sights shifted down toward their guide. "So, Mr. Ace, right? This really the place we need to be?" "That's right," Ace assured. "We should be directly above the spaceship you're looking to get to." He gestured toward the front garage door. "Come in, we have people waiting for us inside." RC furrowed her irises skeptically. "Wait, others?" "Yep, and they already know about all of you." Ace went to reach down and pull up the door, when something caught his ear. CHYOOOOOM. The group set their sights down the street, and their eyes widened at that they saw. Speeding towards them was an extremely fast, blue vehicle, and it wasn't slowing down. What's that?" Ochako exclaimed. Shoto took point, getting ready to freeze the fast-moving car. "Get back, I'll stop it." "No, wait," Moonracer insisted, rushing in front of him instead. "Don't do anything, he's a friend." The group were taken aback by what she said, but even more so what she did next. Holding up a hand, she screamed at the speedster, "Stoop." Screech. And stop it did, leaving behind black smoke that wafted from the tire marks on the road. This allowed the group to get a better look at the vehicle, its streamlined, alien build leaving them in awe. And then, the top canopy opened up, revealing an even more surprising sight. Bakugo! The teens shouted. You? Flopping down into the dirt in front of the storehouse, Katsuki's head spun, his vision in a daze, for all of a second before he shook his head to regain himself. Ah, you dumbass. I thought ya said ya weren't gonna punch the accelerator. Asterisk word stick. Well, I am sorry, but we had to get across that river somehow and going top speed across the water was the only way. Blur said, transforming to place his hands on his hips. Besides, we got ya back to your teammates, so it's all good. Bakugo's eye twitched in annoyance, only to wave the whole thing off. Whatever, he directed his attention to the others, who were still staring at him. HMPH, guess ya decided to ditch the adults, huh? More like we were forced to retreat. Kyoko remarked. What happened to Roadbuster? And who's your new pal? Roadbuster went to help Prime. Lots of shit's going down. Bakugo jerked his thumb back toward the blue bot. And this guy showed up to help us take care of Lughead. He then took notice of Moonracer as well. Guess he's not the only one who showed up as backup, huh? Moonracer puffed out her chest proudly. Nope, we've both come from Velocitron to help out, she nudged Blur's arm with a knowing wink. Though my pal Blur is here more as a punishment from our planet's leader for reckless endangerment. Oof. Huh, well, yeah, but I'm making the most out of it. Blur insisted. Letting out a sigh, Kyoko threw her hands up. Well, the more the merrier, I guess. At this point, we need all the backup we can. Hey! Suddenly, Katsuki lashed out as he spotted Ace next, storming his way up to him. It's you. From the mall. Ace's expression turned up slightly at his outburst. Ah, and you must be Katsuki Bakugo, I've heard quite a bit about you. In a matter of seconds, the mysterious man found himself being grabbed by his scarf and pulled downward, Katsuki's red-eyed glare meeting his own dark eyes. Oh, well now it's quite serious, isn't it? Shut it. Who the hell are you? Bakugo demanded. I overheard ya talkin' to your pals back at the mall about how our world is doomed or some shit. He thrust a finger over to Izuku. And what the hell does Deku have to do with it? Without missing a beat, Ace replied, oh, haven't you heard? Your friend over there is this world's common rider. Katsuki's glare went from spiteful to incredulous in the blink of an eye. What? Izuku went over and placed a firm hand on his bully's shoulder. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering. We were actually about to get some answers when you guys arrived. He reached down and removed the blonde's grip on Ace. So if you don't mind, Kachan, we'd like to get them now, please. Reluctantly, the grumbling Bakugo backed away, allowing Ace to brush off his lapels. Thank you, Izuku. Now, where was I? Leaning down, Ace pulled up on the garage door, allowing light to be cast into the dark building. I'm back, he called out. Ah, Ace. Peering inside, the Autobots and teens were greeted by 3 additional faces, the frontmost being a young Japanese lady in a yellow cardigan and black skirt, with matching thigh-high stockings and black heels. Glad you got here so, whoa, her expression became one of awe as she stared up at the approaching Autobots. It's one thing to see them from afar, but this close. So cool, said another young, Japanese man with scraggly brown hair, wearing a green and white checkered button-up shirt over a solid green t-shirt. He wore blue jeans and a pair of white sneakers as well. Haha, I was not prepared for this. The last of the group stepped forward, his long, dark hair cascading over his shoulders, donned in a black leather jacket. His undershirt was purple and he had an orange sash around his waist, which served as a break between his shirt and his black pants. As astounding as this admittedly is, we don't have time to gawk. He spoke with a serious tone, looking to the leader of their group. Ace, it's time to cut to the chase. Ace nodded, wanting to get along with things himself. Right, everybody, allow me to introduce you to my associates. This is... Hi, I'm Neon, the young lady greeted with a cheery wave. It's so nice to finally meet all of you. Especially you, Deku Kahai. Behind his mask, Izuku's eyebrows rose up. K Kahai. That's right, the brown-haired man said. You are a common rider, after all. He gave Izuku a bow. I'm Keiwa Sakurai. It's a pleasure. The dark-clad individual gave a simple nod with his arms folded over his chest. Mikanaga Azuma. About time you accepted your lot in life, kid, but I suggest you be ready. He furrowed his brow at Izuku. Carrying the title of Common Rider brings with it a heavy responsibility and certain harsh challenges. You'd better be willing to step up. Before anyone else could ask, Katsuki once again became the center of attention. Alright, what the hell even is all this talk about Deku being a common rider? They're all just imaginary superheroes on TV. Maybe in this reality, Ace clarified, but in many others, I can assure you that they are real. What's he talking about? Ochako whispered, with Shoto shaking his head unsurely. I think I might know. Tapping the side of his helmet, Izuku retracted it so that his eyes could meet Ace's properly. In fact, I think I've pretty much deduced who you are, Mr. Ace. All this talk about different realities, the fact that you summoned your motorcycle from out of nowhere, plus you saying that you were sent to observe me, Izuku narrowed his gaze at him. You're a common rider, too. In fact, I'm willing to be all of you are. The teens and Autobots were left completely baffled, and yet Ace could only smile knowingly. Hey, guilty as charged. Indeed, we are riders from another world. Another world, Jazz echoed. Like, you're aliens from another planet or something. Keiwa denied the assumption. Nope, it's like Ace said, we're from a different reality altogether. A different universe, more accurately. One where things are similar yet different to this one in many ways. Neon added. And we were sent here by a dude in pink to keep tabs on you. Mikanaga concluded, nudging his chin toward Izuku. The guy had a hunch that you'd go down the path of a rider in this reality, and it seems he was right. Yes, though to be accurate, he wears magenta. Ace corrected. He's very picky about that. Upon hearing that, Izuku's eyes widened in realization. Oh my god, you were sent by Decade. His eyes darted between the quartet, trying to come to grips with everything presented to him. But if you were sent by Common Rider Decade, then, who are you? With his smile widening, Ace procured his police badge and flashed it at the group. My name is Ace Yukio, though you might know me better as Flash. In an instant, the badge changed shape entirely, becoming a white, cylindrical core with a red center, which in turn had a symbol within that was shaped like a kitsune mask with large eyes. Geats. Common Rider Geats. And just like that, he could see Izuku's knees start getting wobbly again, to which Ace reached out and caught him before he could fall. Whoa there, breathe, kid. Breathe. I don't know if I can, Izuku stammered, starting to hyperventilate. Why you're Common Rider, G Geats. Behind him, Shoto raised his hand. For those of us who aren't Common Rider mega fans, what does that mean? Izuku promptly whipped around and screamed, it means he's essentially a god. All at once, the teens and Autobots were once more staring dumbfounded at Ace, whose smile didn't falter in the least. Guilty as charged. More specifically, I am a god of desire. Though even I'll admit, I'm not the strongest rider in the multiverse but still fairly powerful. He extended his hand out to the team. After all, I have the ability to grant one's greatest wishes, and I sense that all of you have the desire to get down to that spacecraft. That's right, RC affirmed, still quite skeptical about the whole thing. And how do you plan on getting us down there, Mr. So-called God of Desire? Easy. Moving to the center of the garage, Ace set his hand down upon the floor. And then, bong, a wave of blue energy rippled throughout the ground in the shape of a large circle, before it then crumbled and created a rather wide hole. And as if to prove himself further, Ace simply floated above the new chasm opening, casually strolling back across to them. This tunnel should take you directly to where you're going. What the heck did we arrive to? Moonracer asked. Blur was scratching his head, trying to come to terms with everything himself. Honestly, no clue, but I ain't about to look a gift cyber stallion in the mouth. Pumping an eager fist, he proclaimed, let's get down there. However, RC held her arm up in front of him. Hold on there, Fast McGee. She narrowed her optics at Ace. What if this is all a Decepticon trick? It's way too convenient to have a god show up and suddenly fix all of our problems. Keiwa, Neon and Mikanaga all shared an awkward glance, knowing that to be true. I mean, yes, it is, the green-clad man conceded. But believe me when I say that this is all true. Right, Neon asserted as well. Ace might be a little bit of a trickster, but in this case, it's all completely genuine. I'm not buying this crap either. Bakugo growled, stepping up and raising his fists. This all just smells of bullshit. Seeing this, Mikanaga reached behind his back, and pulled out a black, oblong object. In its center was a white light piece that was separated into two semicircles, separated by a diagonal ridge across the middle. In the center of that ridge was the main core, which was similar to Ace's, but only in purple and orange, and the symbol on the core resembled a bull head. You want to see proof, then? Mikanaga challenged, setting the object along his waist, wherein a long, silver belt came out of it and snapped onto him. Fine then. Desire driver. But just as Mikanaga was about to reach for something else, his way was blocked by Ace and the others. What? Michi, we're not here to start a fight. Neon insisted. Right, we're here to help, Ace echoed, sparing RC a glance over his shoulder. It's only reasonable that they don't believe us, especially since it sounds so fantastical. He moved around to face her fully. But I promise you, this is no trick. The future depends on your succeeding here, because there are far worse things on the horizon that we need your help with. RC's features were etched with uncertainty, even though she could hear sincerity in his tone. Her optics shifted around to everyone else, seeing a mixture of emotions, concern, frustration, disbelief. It was all so much. Pow. But just then, a powerful laser shot into the garage and exploded in the middle of everyone, kicking up a cloud of sparkly dust. Aha! There you are! A young woman's voice echoed out, while the sound of metal hooves came trotting in. I was wondering when I'd find you again. With a wave of her wand, Professor Princess cleared the glittery haze, her sights focused right on RC and Ochako. Don't you know it's, like, totes rude to bail when things are just starting to get good. Are you serious? Ochako rolled her eyes. I thought we lost you. I'll admit, you dropping that much junk all at once did throw me off a bit. The young genius acknowledged. But it's gonna take a lot more than a little rubble to stop me. She scanned her eyes across the group. And wouldn't ya know, you brought a bunch of friends, but then, she couldn't help but linger on Izuku, Shoto and Katsuki, her eyebrows raised as she bit her lower lip. Ooh, and there's a bunch of cute boys, too. Lucky you. Kyoka's expression soured immediately, especially since she saw the princess staring mostly at Izuku. Oh, for the love of, she hooked her jacks into her wrist speakers and unleashed a sonic blast upon the horse-riding girl, only for the horse to spread its wings and dodge it. This is war, lady. I'd do you better to focus on what's actually important. Professor Princess merely scoffed. PFF'd, please. I've got people to do that for me. She promptly snapped her fingers and, from either end of the street, a squad of at least a dozen Decepticons came screeching in behind her, all transforming and aiming their arm blasters at them. The sight made Mikanaga grin eagerly. Oh, hey, would you look at that? An excuse for us to throw down. Kawa and Neon rolled their eyes, but at the same time, they knew that he was right. As such, they brought out their own desire drivers, both with their own unique cores. Kawa's had a green core with a black center, the head of a big-eyed tanuki in the middle. Meanwhile, Neon's was completely black with a gold emblem resembling that of an ornamental cat. Finally, Ace brought out his own as well, placing his own core in the vacant middle. Entry. Well then, seems it's time for the highlight. The writer said as he and his compatriots put on their belts. I don't care what you losers throw at me. Professor Princess proclaimed as the Decepticons moved in. We're gonna take you all down. Now Atta, CHOOOM. From out of nowhere, another light flashed between the Autobots and the Decepticons, before it then expanded into a familiar vortex. A ground bridge. Jazz exclaimed before reaching up to his comlink. Jazz to HQ, is this on you? Ah, good. Glad to hear from you, Jazz. Red Alert replied. And yes, I'm responsible for this ground bridge. You should be receiving our gift through it very soon. Gift. What GI? VRRRRROOOOMMM. Insert. Battle without honor or humanity. The sound of a powerful engine sent a wave of goosebumps across everyone, the Autobots and Decepticons stepping back by the sheer volume of it. Not to say anything about how loud the music coming through the portal was, with a guitar thrumming an intimidating yet catchy beat. And within moments, the perpetrator revealed themselves, a Chevrolet Camaro rolling slowly through the portal. One that was a vibrant yellow with 2 black racing strips going from the hood, across the roof and all the way to the rear spoiler. The portal closed, allowing everyone to see it, and immediately, Izuku's eyes widened. What? At that moment, the beat to the song dropped, the procession instruments blasting and the rhythm picking up as the Camaro began to change shape. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. The rear of the vehicle unfurled first, becoming the robot's legs. The very rear end of the car even became the bot's knee guards while the feet flipped out from the interior and the wheels shifted to the calves. From the sides, the doors swung out and up, shifting to the bot's back as a pair of wings while his yellow arms unfurled from his undercarriage. The front tires settled on his shoulders, along with the front fenders and the Camaro's headlights. The hood, meanwhile, folded onto the chest before the roof and windshield covered it up, the Autobot symbol emblazoned upon it. Finally, the bot's head shifted up, and his helm was a very familiar shape. Round with a central crest, and 2 small horns on either side. The kids and the other bots couldn't help but stare at him in astonishment. They knew who this was, but still couldn't believe it. Finally, Izuku swallowed and hesitantly uttered, "B." Craning his head around, the Autobot peered down at Izuku, only to then turn to him fully, revealing that it was, indeed, Bumblebee. Much taller and brawnier in the upper body, but it was him without question. "ZRKT, I have come here to kick ass," he said through his radio, giving them a thumbs up. And just like that, Izuku, Kyoka and Ochako broke out into beaming smiles, with Shoto offering a more subdued one of his own. "B." The former 3 cried out. By Primus, RC placed a hand over her mouth in shock. "It's him, he's back. Watch out." Bakugo yelled right as one of the Viacons went in with a plasma sword to shank B in the back. But Bumblebee proved to be faster, grabbing the Khan's arm and then breaking it with little effort. "ZRKT, here's looking at you, kid." In one swift motion, B tore the arm off completely and began using it as a bludgeon, smacking the rest of the foot soldiers away as they stormed him. Some remained at a distance to blast at him, but for as much height as he'd gained, Bumblebee still proved to be plenty agile, swinging around the Viacons and using their bodies as shields at every opportunity. Eventually, though, he retaliated proper. Pumping his arm, he brought out his plasma cannon, which span up rapidly to generate power. "ZRKT, say hello to my lil friend." Pow pow pow. The blasts were more powerful than even the others were expecting, melting holes through the Viacons and blowing them to bits. Once again, though, one Viacon tried to test his luck and unsheathed another plasma blade. "I don't know who you are, but you're the SHZZZZAP*, ya. But his strategy proved futile, Bumblebee unsheathing his stinger, which had gotten a considerable upgrade. No longer was it a short, jagged metal point, but now it was a full energy blade, glowing with arcing, blue energy. The electrical burst paralyzed the Khan, and in seconds, B shot out more lightning at the others, leaving them similarly subdued. And all the while, Professor Princess was absolutely baffled. What? Where did this guy come from? She pointed forward and ordered, "Powdered sugar, waste him." The winged mechanical horse reared back and took off with a whinny, its horn glowing to unleash another energy burst, only for B to jump up and catch it by its legs, bringing it back down and slamming it into the dirt. Gia. Penelope was thrown from her steed and rolled across the ground, only to be quickly pinned by B's hand. "Ah, let go of me. ZKRT, lady, you've got bigger problems." Bumblebee. The yellow bot was suddenly bombarded by excited embraces as Izuku, Kyoka and Ochako all clenched onto his arms, all of them tearing up in sheer happiness. "Why, you're alive," Izuku said, naturally weeping the most. "And you've gotten swole," Kyoka added, flexing an arm for emphasis. "We knew you were getting fixed, but we didn't think it'd be this much." B's optics were full of happiness as he looked down upon his friends. "ZRKT, and how?" "ZRKT, but wait, there's more." He gently urged them off his arms as he raised a finger. "ZRKT, I still have one last trick up my sleeve." With that, V reached up, and grabbed his mouth guard before yanking it right off his face and tossing it away. The group were taken completely off guard by the move, but even more so by something they had never seen before, Bumblebee's mouth. And if that weren't enough, what came next was truly jaw-dropping. "Alright, lady, I'm only gonna say this once." Bumblebee spoke, his optics zeroing in on Professor Princess. "Where is Rodimus?" And this of Season 2 Part 52 of this What If. Hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.